welcome to the Apex Legends Global Series. Today is match day 4 of Split 2, which means today we're getting to see our teams face off against each other again and see if they were able to learn anything from last time around. We've had a really close competition so far here in EMEA, and I can't wait to see how our teams continue to handle everything here today. My name is Glitter Explosion, and I will be your host. But of course, I can't do this alone. Today, we are joined by everyone's favorite Englishman, Onset and Gaskin. Mark, we've got lots to talk about today for EMEA.
We certainly do indeed. We have completed now our first round robin of games for this split. So we got a pretty good idea of what teams are in form, what teams need to pick it up a little bit. Also, we've got some huge orgs, of course, joining the ALGS here in EMEA. So a lot of exciting things to talk about today.
Yeah, we've got lots of news to tell all of you at home, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But Dan, give me your thoughts. I mean, the split feels like it's going by so quickly already.
Yeah, we won't get too ahead of ourselves. Still a lot of Pro League to go, but it certainly does seem to be flashing in front of our very eyes. The fact that all the teams have played each other means we've got a good idea of how these lobbies should go, but with POI draft now, you've got to be realizing that everything changes. It's not going to be the same similarities we had in previous Pro Leagues.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really fun day today to see what our teams are bringing to the table. But like we've mentioned a couple times, there's still lots for us to get into before we get into our matches later on. So let's talk about everything that's happened since we last saw each other, because we have some team news from our competitive Apex community. We have some player news. They always like to keep us on our toes, okay? So we've got a little bit of a mid-season mayhem update here. First things first, we've got some new orgs entering the scene. 07 will now be going under the Ninjas in Pajamas logo. That org, Nip, if you guys are familiar with them. So that'll be Nasky and Co. And then, of course, Made in Heaven, massive pickup, going to FaZe Clan. I mean, all of this stuff has been going wild on social media right now, Gaskin.
Yeah, it really has, and for good reason, because NIP is one of the biggest organizations in the world, depending on which esport you watch. Of course, very prominent in Counter-Strike. That's where a lot of their history came from, and to see them now enter Apex is incredible, and what a team to pick up as well. Very deserved after their performance last week, but can they continue that form? Certainly, they will have the momentum and the belief in themselves. We'll have to see whether it happens here, Mark.
Off the back of that, I see your Ninjas in Pajamas, and I raise you a FaZe clan because they are back in EMEA, or I should say they are entering EMEA for the first time. The North American organization, one of the biggest esports organizations across the globe, has picked up Arctic Nags and Cinetic. It's a huge move. It's great to see this team get picked up, and pretty deserved after the start they've had this split as well.
Yeah, some really big news for our EMEA teams here so far. And that's not all that we've had going on. We've had some roster updates as well. So let's talk through those, starting off with Navi. Navi loses Tyler and they gain Henchman. Okay, so that means Henchman will now be filling that spot along Matafe and Kinda. Well, then where does Tyler go? Tyler goes over to Ethernal, replacing Bongo. So now that squad will be Tyler, Bambino, and Maxi. And then where did Henchman come from? Well, Henchman came from Passion. So now Henchman on Navi means JMW will be replacing Henchman with the Passion squad alongside 0-0 and Buda. So we have lots of things going on from week to week with our squads. Now that you guys know our new orgs that have entered the scene and our players that have swapped some of those squads up, let's talk about our teams that are participating here today. We mentioned it a couple times. We got to see these groups face off against each other once before on the very first match day. Well, we're back at it again, Mark.
Here we are indeed, and we have the team who sat at #1 in the overall standings in this lobby as well. We've already mentioned they've been picked up by FaZe Clan. Well, we'll be calling them FaZe Clan for all of today as well, and if they can continue that kind of momentum, they're going to be in a pretty good place. Something to note though, last time we saw A and B match up, it was Gaimin Gladiators who came away with the win. They're back again, and they'd love to repeat the dosage once more.
It is worth mentioning that in previous Pro Leagues, when we see groups repeat themselves, we expect patterns, we expect to see the same drops, but with POI draft now, we are going to see a lot of differences. People aren't going to have the same familiar rotations that they might have had in previous Pro Leagues. So there is going to be a lot of interesting factors here today, and I can't wait.
Yeah, we've got some seriously big names in the lobby here today, but let's also take a look at our regular season standings here so far so we can kind of get a lay of the land with where everybody is points-wise. Obviously, that newly named FaZe Clan at the top with 42 points, only 4 points above Gaimin Gladiators. Like Onset was saying, the team that did the best last time these two groups faced off against each other. But still, that top of the leaderboard is very, very close, only separated by 2 points. Then 2 points rounding out top 10 is Passion UA at 25. Onset, I mean, this is still a very close lobby.
Extremely close at the moment. And as we move on to the second page, something just to note for everyone, we always look at these standings and we're kind of saying, hey, this team hasn't played all of the series in comparison to someone else. Well, because we've completed our first round robin set of games, every single team has now played 2 series. So we get a really good indication how teams are performing, where their form is at, and what teams need to improve as well. And as you can see here, Exo Clan, the likes of DMs, Aurora, a little bit quiet by their own standards. I will stay still very much in touch with the top of the leaderboards, but the likes of Ethernal, Rolling Teams, 9 Lives, they got to pick up some more points.
Yeah, and I think then when you look at the bottom of the table, you're always going to have teams that we start to ask the question of, is it going right? Is this the correct decision? Is this the right team that can take you forward in Pro League? It is still very early, but there's always those warning signs. The likes of Apex Warlords, I know losing Shiv are due to him resting up and trying to get better, and then you've got Nessy as well on 2 points. Both of those teams need to have a big performance when we see them next compete. Otherwise, they're just going to start to fall away from the pack here, Lauren.
Yeah, this is definitely the moment where those teams that need to get some more points on the board want to do that now. They don't want to make it to the latter half of this split and then kind of be stuck forcing themselves into a tight spot. So today will be an important day for some of those teams on that second and third page, and that's why things are already going to be so interesting. But we have lots of squads to talk about here today. So let's start boiling things down a little bit and focus on who we want to watch individually. Okay, could be teams that we think need to improve, teams that are standing out already doing well. Mark, I want to start with you.
Well, start with me because I get to do this, which is exciting. I've been practicing that, everybody. It's because I want to talk about FaZe Clan. It's understandable why I want to talk about FaZe Clan. They're top of the leaderboards. They've been picked up by this wonderful organization who's going to support them moving forward as well. And if you want to look back on their first 2 match days and kind of paint the picture a little bit, well, the second time that these groups met, they managed to pick up every single game was inside of the top 8, which is pretty remarkable. Also, they picked up 11 kills and 10 kills in their 2 highest placing games, respectively. So one thing to note, when FaZe are playing well, it's not just the placements that are coming, it's also a huge amount of KP. Now, the first time that we saw them go up in this group, A and B, they managed to put a 10 kill win on the board as well as a second place. But note, it's KP every single game. Now, one thing that's going to kind of flow into that is the kill leaderboard. And you say, why KP every game? Well, you got to look at Synetic and Nags. They're putting up huge numbers at the moment. 29 kills for Synetic. Nags as well with 24 just behind him. They are holding down the first and second place in the overall kill leaderboard. FaZe are looking extremely strong, and they've got some pretty good POIs. Well, certainly on Storm Point to play from today.
Yeah, a team that everyone's absolutely going to be having their eyes on. And obviously, FaZe being in EMEA is a big deal. So, we had to talk to the players about it. We actually got a chance to catch up with Nags and speak to him about his journey in the ALGS so far and what the FaZe pickup means for the squad.
Hello, I'm Nags. My teammates are Synetic and Arctic, and we are part of FaZe Clan. Yeah, my journey has been wild. After LAN, I parted with 07. And then luckily during that time when I parted away, Maiden Heaven was looking for a third. So I ended up trying for them. They went really well. I ended up getting picked up by them. And then, yeah, it felt really good as a team. Going into Pro League, we had a double block. And both game days we came second. And yeah, like currently on top of Pro League and everything's been going well. Honestly, it was unexpected. We didn't think we were going to get signed to FaZe. We had a couple of other orgs that I won't mention, but we had a couple of other orgs that we were speaking to. And yeah, it was sort of like last minute with FaZe. And then they came in and everyone was like, oh my God, like these guys are actually interested. Because obviously EU team as well. So we ended up, yeah, it was just crazy. When we signed to them, it's like a dream, It's like a dream, and like we're actually living our dreams now. So yeah, it's crazy to me. It's an amazing feeling for sure to be representing FaZe. Yeah, man. I've been grinding, man. I've been trying to improve every day, like day in day out, watching VODs, watching like all the top players play from like other regions. That's like a really good way to improve. And yeah, I've been putting hours in, and I try not to think about stats too much, because when you think about it too much, you kind of get in your own head. So it's almost like I'm playing my own game, and it seems to be showing, like I'm doing well on the stats for sure. But yeah, I don't let it try to get into my head too much. I just like play my own game.
And we got to hear it there, just how excited Nags is. Multiple offers is like a dream come true for any unsigned team. And then to kind of close that all out, landing with FaZe in EMEA is massive. So obviously huge congratulations to the boys on that. And Well, excited to see what they continue to do as a squad since they are at the top of our leaderboard. Great choice in FaZe onset, but I want to continue on with this. Dan, which team are you keeping your eyes on?
Well, we have to talk about Aurora, really, don't we? They were the standout team in EMEA in Split 1, not just throughout the Pro League, but even if you look at their performance at playoffs, they were one of the top-performing EMEA teams. So you would expect better, perhaps, but it hasn't necessarily been the dream start for them. Pretty average performances across the board, considering how good they have done previously, and maybe we have expectations a little bit too high for Aurora, right? But I do wonder, with the change of the POI draft, with the change of the meta, has it affected them a little bit more? Because I would have thought they were going to be a team that would really develop well in a POI draft because they play Edge so successfully, very good at team fighting as well, but they just seem to have struggled, and I wonder if that's because they haven't got any of those big picks in the POI draft yet. You can see the statistics across match weeks 1 and 2. They had a good start on World's Edge, but then they dropped off on Stormpoint, and that seems to be the pattern for Aurora. They have a far better World's Edge. 59% of their points are on World's Edge, whereas 41% on Stormpoint. Means that in today's POI draft, again, I think they're going to be prioritizing World's Edge to try and find their points, but they need to be working on Stormpoint here, Glitter.
All right, I love the pick of Aurora. Definitely a squad that I think a lot of people will be keeping their eyes on here. But for me, I want to talk about Danish, okay? And mostly it's boiling down to the fact that they had such a marked improvement from our first match day to match day 3. Now, when these highlights run, we're going to be seeing the results of their 2 wins from last time we got to see them play on match day 3. And a lot of it boiled down to just stellar positioning. They were able to call some really solid spots in those final circles, and specifically in this first match, it was almost too easy as they had the high ground and were able to allow everybody else below them to kind of cannibalize each other before they cleaned it up. But then moving into this next match for match day 3, they played this stupendously. This was a game where I think a lot of people thought 07's positioning would have won them this match, and Danish were patient. They dealt damage when they had the opportunity to, and stayed behind that cover really, really well. They're just playing as a trio incredibly strongly, and of course it is the roster of Young Hong Kong, Fricks, and Sherb. And you can see the stats here going up against each other. Match day 1, it wasn't bad, it was just kind of meh. The highest placement that they got was that 3rd place finish, and they were definitely a little bit lower with the exception of match number 6 when it came to their slaying ability with those kills. Then you take a look at match day 3, 2 first place finishes, way more KP on the board, and slowly just increasing that overall average placement. I mean, it was 13 points for their match day 1 performance for that overall standing, and then 21 when it came to day 3. So just with an improvement that's so quick from one match day to the next, there's someone that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on here today. I think we've had some really good choices there across the board for all 3 of us. But guys, at home, if we didn't list any of your favorite teams, don't worry. There's still a way for you to keep up with your favorite squads across the board, okay? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, all you have to do is check out FACEIT Watch. It will have everything you could possibly need, whether that's watching up to 4 team POVs simultaneously, watching that dedicated map POV. You will also have the live team comms with an audio mixer, so you can balance the audio the way that you want to when you're watching the ALGS. It's a very, very cool way to use all of it. And if you want to check it out, you can head on over to fce.gg/watch ALGS. And that way you'll be able to use all of the amazing tools we have at our disposal. But now that we've gone through everything for all of you at home, you know our new orgs that have entered the scene, you know all of our roster swaps, okay? You know which teams we're keeping our eyes on. It's going to be a really exciting match day 4. And I think that means it's time for us to get into the first match of the day. So onset, Gaskin, let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's get into it, everybody. We're not hanging around today. We're getting straight into the matches. Hopefully, we have a good day of Apex Legends ahead of us. And Dan, it's a wonderful time to kind of rejoin the Pro League, right? Because we've had that first group of games. The POI draft has been in for a few weeks now. A lot of scrims have been played. A lot of teams will have kind of a little bit more comfortable feeling on some of the POIs maybe they haven't played on before. And we're starting on World's Edge, which means that teams, hopefully at this point in the Pro League, have kind of got their fundamentals down.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that people are learning now which are the better POIs to be picking in the POI draft, as well as we can take a look at some of the selections. As always, Sky West has been the first pick throughout the majority of Pro League, so I'm not particularly surprised. Harvester is number 2. Again, that seems to be the tradition. Monument is 3, was a surprise. Thermal usually seems to be the priority pick over Monument, but again, we are going to see teams preferring which POI they have here.
Yeah, and just to kind of pick out some of the teams that are at the top of the leaderboards at the moment, where they're going to be dropping, we'll get to that on the second page, but they've been well down the pecking order when it comes to Worlds Edge. You're looking at FaZe, they're top of the pile at the moment. Well, they had last pick, and they're actually going to be playing from Epicenter today. And then on the other side of things, the team who won this lobby last time that we were there, GG, well, they're going to be playing from Climatizer West. So you would say, Dan, that the teams who were at the top of the pile when these two teams played against each other last time, here on World's Edge, their POIs don't look like they're the strongest.
Yeah, which means that when you do get to Storm Point, you're probably going to have a better POI and you have to make it count there. But we have seen teams finding success from even some of the less successful POIs, supposedly statistically. I mean, you mentioned Epicenter. It has been the last pick every single time, if anyone has even chosen it when it comes to World's Edge. So it is certainly going to be fighting from the deep end for FaZe. But will they be able to swim or will they sink? That's going to be my biggest question. New org, new signings, new possibilities, and if you can fight your way out of Epicenter, which seems to be one of the worst picks statistically, then that will really assert your dominance in the lobby.
Yeah, interesting to see on our map overhead as well. You know, Epicenter, you can see FaZe there. Right next to them is going to be GG. They're our first and second, respectively, in the leaderboards last time that we had A and B. So there's a real chance these two might have to rotate either through or close to each other, depending on where the zones are going. But you can see Sky West, that is always going to be first pick by the looks of things. That's going to go to BLCK. They're looking very, very good over there. Elsewhere, you're looking at some of the weaker POIs. I'm seeing that Dome is open. Siphon is not going to be shared. You're going to have GoNext landing over at Siphon, but always got my eyes on what's happening over at Mord and Stacks as well, because those two teams are so close to each other that usually you have a couple of shots that are going to be exchanged.
Yeah, you might hear me mentioning ADP a few times today. That's the average draft pick across the board for Pro League in the region. We have not seen Dome picked at all in EMEA. It has been picked in North America, but EMEA seem to be staying clear of it. And the dominance of Sky West is very prominent. On average, it has been picked 1.8. So there is only one instance where someone has not selected it first so far. Everyone else realizing that it is the best POI on the map. And you've got to look back at the teams who have found success from Skyhook West before the POI draft actually was there, right? Everyone realized that with the new Evo Harvester system, with the new way of getting shields, landing up at trials was going to be one of the better ways to get those shields up, to get your pathing right so that you could be on purples so early compared to other teams.
Another team to keep your eye on here on the map drops and where the teams are going to be landing is Aurora, because Aurora, they're landing right down on their own, down on the bottom left of the map. They're going to be very, very happy with their drop spot. And I think it plays into how they want to play the game, right? They're going to have some uncontested loot over at Thermal Station. They're going to have a lot of room to work with as well. Usually you're going to have a ring console and possibly a survey beacon as well to get those armors up. And I think when you look back at, like, historically, again, we use that term a lot. The likes of Alliance have played from there. They're a heavy edge team, and Aurora, heavy edge team historically as well. So this is a really good pick for them. And I think that this is the kind of map and this kind of POI can really work for them going into today's games.
And I do think that this is going to be a big day for both EMEA and NA, because in EMEA, we have 4 of the 5 top teams at the moment in the region that are all competing in these two groups. So this is how you can kind of make a gap between yourselves and the chasing pack here. If you can be the leaders, even if you don't find wins, if you could just get those points on the board. We've already seen teams finding success without actually getting a win on the board. Instead, when you get into that top 5, when you get into that final circle, when you realize that you can actually pick up 6 possible kills here, you can wipe 2 squads, that can be even better than going for the win with the points that you're able to achieve and just getting top 3 alongside the kills.
Well, here we go then. You saw the Legend select. No surprise to see Bangalore and Bloodhound as the go-to, +1. We've got some Caustics, we've got some Watsons, we've got some Catalyst, and we've got my boy Fuse as well in there. So interesting to see who are the thirds, so to speak, in these compositions has the biggest impact in this lobby. But no surprise who we're going to be starting looking at, Dan. It's over at Epicenter. It's going to be the newly acquired, the newly picked up FaZe clan. A big day for them.
And you heard it in Nags' interview, right? It's a dream come true. I mean, how many kids growing up watched FaZe montages and watched FaZe YouTubers, and now you are a part of history. You are part of one of the biggest organizations in the world, and to see it in EMEA as well is incredible for these 3 gentlemen, and I really hope that they can put themselves on a pedestal here and continue the fine form, because FaZe deserve it, they deserve it, and it will just be amazing to see them progress here.
It's going to be a lot of work for them to do, though, from Epicenter today on World's Edge, and I think you raised a really good point. It's like, yeah, World's Edge is not looking great for their POI, but they know they've got the mill over on Storm Point as well. So I think just like looking for average points for them, they're not going to be looking to like have banger games from Epicenter. They will understand that a lot of their strength is going to come later in the day when they get to the mill, when they get to Storm Point with that great POI. But if they can put up, you know, 7 or 8 points per game, they will be extremely happy leaving World's Edge knowing that they've got that POI in the bag. Looking at the ring though, down where are we going? It looks like Bank Center map.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be heading somewhere in the region of Monument and Fragment. So cybercats, obviously, they're going to be a good position. I kind of like Passion's spot as well, from Geyser all the way up, because they can hit the beacon when they go through No Name, and they can find themselves then pushing into Fragment, potentially picking up some kills of rotations that might be arriving from that eastern side as well. It is going to be Ethernal from Overlook, who will probably be the first team they actually go up against. But elsewhere, as we look at the Apex Warlords, of course, sadly, losing Shiv with his retirement, there is going to be that extra kind of eyes on of how will they do without Shiv. At the moment, they are at the bottom of the overall leaderboards. Can they make up for that?
Well, they do have ring console. You can see that on the top left-hand side of your screen. They do know where that zone is going to be going. And I want to have a little conversation about zones, because we have seen some repetition when it comes to zones, but repetition in a way which I would say some of these zones we haven't seen for quite some time, if at all, it feels like. In Fragment, we've seen some funky ones in and around Fragment as well. And you can already see that everyone is going into Fragment, which is somewhat of a surprise. We haven't seen this for quite some time, and that's a good indication of where they believe this zone is going. Maybe finishing outside of the bar, maybe finishing towards the bridge a little bit as well. Usually when we see these kind of zones down, it's pulling out previously into those open rocks. It's going to be interesting to see how this one actually plays.
Yeah, I think we saw a very similar circle in APAC actually quite recently, and it pulled to the east of Fragment. So I'm expecting a few teams to be expecting that, depending on how many games they've been watching in other regions. The teams who found success when we saw a circle like this were teams that were coming from the areas of like Harvester and Tree, and were arriving from the south, so you don't have to push through as many of the difficult open scaling lands from the northern side. So we'll have to see whether that happens again here on World's Edge. But you can see Nessy have made their way comfortably into center zone. This is something we see a lot from Nessy. Graceful is a big zone player, likes to get in early, likes to call those rotations, and they'll be able to call this home for quite some time.
Yeah, a lot of teams, as you can say, a lot of room to play. And this kind of takes us back to, shall we say, an old school game of Apex Legends, where we're going to a POI with a lot of buildings, a lot of different floors to share. And it's very likely that if you get into Fragment, you're going to have somewhere to play. And we could have one of those crazy end games with 7 or 8 teams trying to leave one side with the zone pools either in or out of Fragment. So this is going to be a little bit of a slow burner to start with, but I'm going to lie down that got the hairs on my arm standing up a little bit here, because it's giving me a little bit of throwback vibe.
A few goosebumps here or there. You're right, when you get a circle like this, which does allow for a lot of playable space, it means that teams don't have to have that awkward scenario where you have to go across open ground, you get shot by 6 different teams, and then you just kind of duck out of the lobby in a frustrated fashion. Instead, everyone should be able to loot up comfortably, play the game they want to, get into what they believe a good position, and then we will have the ring come into play. And people will suddenly be like, yes, okay, we made a good prediction here. Or you'll get the, crap, we've actually got to try and do something now. As GoNext, you can see, have taken a fight against Passion, and they've been able to win that fight as well. This is something that can happen in Fragment. A lot of contact that can happen in these buildings because it's very close quarters.
Yeah, very interesting to see this fight being taken so early, though. One thing they can say that GoNext is they win it, and they do not get knocked themselves, and now they might be able to turn this situation on its head as well. Kashera does damage, stays on his feet as well, and oh my Kai, that is a big team wipe coming in, and even though Kashera has gone, here comes the fourth buy.
It's Trojan now, another team who just wants to try and pick up the pieces, and they will eventually shut down GoNext. 3 teams GoNext tried to take down. Atlas full sent it and got demolished, but Trojan, they were just listening, a cup to the wall, saying, we just have to wait to pick our moment right. And again, this is what can happen at Fragment, because yes, there is a lot of playable space, but there's also a lot of more desirable buildings that are easier to defend, and if you can take them early, then you are setting yourself up for a good position for the end game.
Well, now over to the beacon building on Respawn Village, and you can see that GG are having a little bit of a fight early on, and certainly a little bit of a scrap. There's going to be a swing and there's going to be a knock, so Blast gets the information on that damage. He's going to take down FaZe with that alternator, and now it's just a case of playing together, playing tight, and seeing if you can either force this team away, or you can pick up these final kills. Everyone who's in Fragment at the moment won't want to overextend to look at this, so this is pretty isolated.
I've been very impressed with how Gaimin Gladiators have been fighting over the past couple of weeks. Oh my goodness, well, I was going to say, oh my goodness, the last few shots were a little bit dicey, but it didn't matter in the end, Gladiators. Sadly, on the flip side, it's going to be Serdell falling, and it looks like this will be the whole roster going down. The full English, they're down, and they're out. No baked beans for you today.
Yep, the full English going down is usually a good thing, but unfortunately today, it's not a good thing if you're a fan of theirs. It's going to be GG who do win that fight, and with ring console information, I don't know if they would have hit the survey beacon as yet, but they will have an opportunity. A little bit risky to do it. They're going to have to smoke, of course, with the Bangalore if they do want to think about doing it to get a little bit more evo and info, but it's a smart spot to play, I would say, for them, knowing at the timing that they're arriving to this zone, based on the fact that everybody else is already in fragment. If they try and force their way into fragment at the moment, it's almost a little bit blind, whereas they play the outside and it pulls towards them, then they will be a team in a priority position. One team who doesn't have ring console and is taking their time a little bit more is going to be Na'Vi as they hit the Evo Harvester, get those Evos up to purple, and they look like they're going to play interesting and look to fight a little bit later on.
Yeah, so Na'Vi with new change, new player, Henchman coming in, and is he going to be Henchman by name and Henchman by nature? As Na'Vi, maybe they just felt like they needed a little bit of something. We've seen so many different iterations of this roster, right, where people come and go, they try and find a fragger, it doesn't really work out necessarily. They have good weeks, they have bad weeks. Is this going to be the change that they so desperately needed in their eyes? I mean, a mid-table side at the moment, it's not like they're performing badly, but considering the success of online tournaments for Na'Vi, you'd be expecting them to see at the top of the leaderboard rather so than the mid-table. Now, this is what I was mentioning earlier as well. We might get a shift where the zone continues to pull east here. Very kind of similar to something we saw in APAC. Gaming Gladiators could take advantage of that. Players also could take advantage of it as well, because if it does shift east of Fragment, all of those teams in those buildings, Mark, are going to have to fight, and sadly for them, it's going to be unlikely any of them find a victory.
And that's why I was talking about the position of GG, right? Because they were just on the outside. If it did pull to the east, they were going to be in a really good position. And you can see they went back into zone as well to hit the ring console once more. That's why you can see Lufka with very, very low HP. He's going to pop that medkit, of course, to get back up. But they played for that next info. They played for that third beacon. And by doing so, they're going to know where that zone shift is going. Players, they're going to be taking up the position that we saw GG in a few moments ago at the respawn village. But for GG, they've taken the height now, which is going to overlook all of this that goes down a little bit later. And even though they might have to fight for it here against BLCK, if they can stay alive and they can hold this position, they're in a really good spot.
They may get contested by Na'Vi a little bit later, but at the moment, Gaming Gladiators are just going to be able to hold this, and I guess a good chance to go into a listening with Gaming Gladiators and just see what they're thinking about this zone.
Left side fucking shooting me, but I'm good.
They're shooting bridge. That's right, bridge team is shooting them, I mean. Wait, is
That's
it
good.
like right here, two on here?
I'm healing, I'm low.
I cracked one.
No enemy perma staring blasker.
That's all
Yeah.
good, that's all good. I'm
So
safe.
avoid left side. Just
So
smoking
listen,
left.
there are two teams. There's a purple armor team bridge and then the blue armor team caustic.
Yeah, where is the blue armor caustic then?
Yeah, they're
Look,
right
in the
here.
open, in the open, in the open. They're
slow
far.
down.
They're getting forced right side, no?
I'm playing with light. Yeah, I think right is forcing left. I think that's
Yeah.
what's happened.
I'm playing on my rock here.
Playing on your spot.
It's insane on me, by the way.
Okay. Right here. 40 on the bang, 50 on the bang. Purple.
Yeah. 40 on
40.
someone. 111.
I'm 1-7.
2-5.
2-7, I'm chilling.
2-5. 2-5. I'm not beating.
Should pull back towards fragment a bit, but we should be in control of the fight next zone.
Yeah.
They'll fight for us. They will fight for it.
That's cool, that's cool.
I don't know where this team stayed down.
They might be playing sharks, it's possible. They were caustic.
So you can see that GG kind of recognized the situation extremely well. It was Na'Vi who were pinching away Blacklist International and managed to take the spot away from them. GG were looking for a third-party opportunity there, but the damage wasn't done. You saw that Blacklist International managed to stay alive long enough to not take a knock or not take damage, so they just hold their spot, and that's helped them out.
Yeah, I really think that Gaming Gladiators players, Na'Vi, all these teams who are not committed to Fragment right now, they have a lot of options depending on where the circle goes. Sure, they can be punished if it does pull into Fragment because then they're not likely to find a position, but they're all very strong fighting teams, so they could force that position if required. Now, FaZe Clan, they are on the far west side at the moment, over towards Monument, and they're going to realize that they are going to have to keep moving further east, and that isn't very easy. When you've got to cross the bridge or you've got to try and get across the lava a little bit, there's going to be a lot of eyes on you here. So FaZe needs some sort of game plan just to try and avoid a lot of the gunshots that are going to be arriving.
Well, Blacklist International have been eliminated in the meantime. That was the team we were talking about who were kind of forced off the hype by Na'Vi and a combination of GG. And speaking of GG and where the zone is going to be going, it might be GG for GG because they are playing in a spot which is going to be fantastic for this endgame, and they're already pressurizing Na'Vi, who are trying to challenge them at the moment. And having burnt the catwalk, Na'Vi have now got to either find a way to survive or fight through it. And speaking of fighting through it, you mentioned it. FaZe have got to do that. They have to work so hard to get near this zone.
Yeah, FaZe at the moment have to take on 3D Max. That's their first point of contact here, and they've got a lot of initial damage to work with, but Arctic has taken some. At least they get the first knock here, though.
Will be a clean wipe by the looks of things. A little bit of help coming in from distance, which is step one of this difficult rotate completed now for FaZe. Still on the blue armors, though, and still quite a way to go to get up to purple for them. That's going to make that rotate even more difficult. Elsewhere, you can see that Aurora are the team I wanted to watch, and they've been picked up at just the right time. They have been working their way all the way around the west of the map, up to the north, collecting every single piece of Evo that they can, and now they're going to be trying to force their way in, but Lufka with some great shots with the Havoc is going to make this a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah, so all the meanwhile, Na'Vi got eliminated between Gaming Gladiators and Aurora here, and now Aurora trying to take advantage of some big damage, and they will push on that. The catwall is going to protect Gaming Gladiators for now, but this is Aurora's chance to pounce.
Blast is trying to get away as well. You can see he's trying to scupper away, trying to play the head glitch, and it looks like they will stay alive long enough, but Rain is looking to push in on the damage. Great shots coming in from him with a flat line, and the first knock will come in. So now Aurora, who had that Evo advantage, are playing like the Aurora that we used to know. Getting that first knock, getting those Evos up, and looking to fight for Godspot.
Oh, having the scan as well is massive for them. Gaming Gladiators might just have to retreat as a 2 here just to try and save something as Aurora take one of the better positions. But is there anywhere to go for Gaming Gladiators? Aurora need to be careful they don't commit to this fight, though. They don't want to drop down and give away one of the best spots in the game right now. But what they can do is maybe just make the team below them aware of Gaming Gladiators' presence here. And you can see players are having a little look. Also in the kill feed, 3D Max just got eliminated, as did Danish.
Down to 11 squads, and this is what everyone leaving Fragment does, right? Gaming Gladiators eliminated in the meantime as Aurora pick up a couple more KP on their way forward, but the pull away from Fragment is the story here, right? Because you're seeing teams just drop left, right, and center because of the fact that nobody can leave all at the same time through so many small chokes. Look at the overhead at the moment. You've got Passion UA, who are probably the first team who can leave and get safe into that zone, but everybody else has to fight, and Aurora just going to be on that high ground, playing those tracks and thinking, well, this is guaranteed top 5 for us if we don't throw.
Yeah, it hasn't pulled as far east as I thought it would, and it's actually gone a little bit more north here, which is going to, of course, play into the hands of Aurora, who have that high ground. Their only worry is going to be players now who have sniffed out the fact that Aurora are going to be playing there after Gaming Gladiators went down, but it's going to be hectic at Fragment. And actually, you still have Monument in play at the moment, but FaZe Clan are still making their move across the map.
Nags with some big damage. He clips one. It gets damage onto a second as well. Surely they should clean this up. And yes, indeed, FaZe will manage to clean up the pieces. Nags is going to be rezzed as well. So FaZe have forced their way into the top 10 here. And finally, by killing everybody in their way, they're going to have some purple armors to play with too. So FaZe looking dangerous and continuing from the story we were telling at the top of the show, which is when they get good placements, when they get into the top 10, usually they have KP to go alongside it. And you can see that already with 6.
Well, now they have to get from Monument to Fragment, though. The benefit is they know where the zone is, so they're not going to play on the south side of Fragment and get caught by the zone. They can go north. Their only worry is being shot from Aurora on the high ground. If they can avoid their sight lines, there is an opportunity for FaZe just to dip in and maybe find a position to get themselves into the top 5. But as the circle closes in, there's about 3 or 4 teams here in Fragment who all have to move at the same time. Nessy being one of them. Can they maybe just about stay in the circle is my real question. No, they can't. It's only Passion, you're right, as now FaZe are continuing to make their move.
FaZe trying to keep moving. They did get 1 knock, so they're going to try and stick this res at the moment. They did have the Watson gen down as well, which is going to make things interesting, but getting shot in the back or in the side was Nags, and FaZe will go down. But a pretty good game from them inside of that top 8, plus they had those KP that we were talking about, but it's not going to be a game-winning position for them. Elsewhere, the game-winning position, you can still see Aurora, all of them in red Evos at the moment, and this is just This is about as good a position you could wish to be in Apex Legends, right? Nessy eliminated, cybercats eliminated, and you don't even have to shoot a bullet because you've won your big fight for the zone.
And we need to see Aurora having an incredible World's Edge because their Storm Point map pick is not going to be good in the POI draft. It's certainly not good for them anyway. As Forbidden now, they're one of the teams that are trying to get out of Fragment. They have found a building to work with for the next 55 seconds. It's them and Passion, who are the only two that survived, by the way, in Fragment. In all of that chaos, just 2 squads.
The stick comes on to Calamitous. The Watson fences will go down, which buys him just enough time by the looks of things to get that heal off. Passion UA with the team underneath them who are trying to make a play. 37 seconds until that zone closes and everyone has to move, but this is looking a little bit sketchy at the moment. You can see 9 Impulse using that evac tower to avoid some Bangalore rolls, or maybe just trying to get a little bit of information, but Aurora not playing that defensive character who's going to be able to zone teams out at the moment. Having to use every single bit of utility just to keep themselves alive and keep themselves out of the firing line. One way to do that is by firing your guns, but it's not going to be good enough as now you're seeing Trojan move up to try and fight Aurora and take this spot away.
Yeah, it was Trojan alongside Aurora who took down FaZe earlier, and Trojan took that position, and now they're taking advantage of players fighting Aurora. They've got the initial knock, and Trojan have the armors to be able to push up and get aggressive here. Whoever wins this northern fight out of these 3 squads is going to be in one of the best positions to win this game for sure.
The Trojan looking to clear this side of the zone for now. They know there's other players around here. They know they've got some work to do before they can call this their own and clear their back. Scan does come in. Gold knockdown though. Oh, it gives me the heebie-jeebies whenever I see that after what happened last week in North America. But this time they deal with it. The triple swing is timed to perfection. And Trojan pushed that time that push so well that they might be able to hold up the third party too.
Well, now players are moving on in. It's just going to be Mosin, the last remaining player, to try and make a stand. One remaining player from Aurora also escaped here. So there's still a chance for 9 Impulse to make an impact in this final lobby, but Trojan will survive, and they're going to get back up to a full 3 here, potentially. All the meanwhile, on the southern side, Forbidden and Passion split off. They went east and west. They didn't fight each other out of Fragment, so it means we have 4 squads remaining.
One of them is solo. That's going to be 9 Impulse. You saw him doing a merry little jig around that train car. Not much cover for him to play with, but he's shaking that mouse in every single way that he can. He's burning at the moment, but he's trying to survive long enough to maybe scrape away a couple more placement points. Elsewhere, our teams are Forbidden, Passion UA, and Trojan as a 2 up onto that high ground, so they weren't able to stick that res. They weren't able to get back up to a full 3, and they will have to drop from the position they find themselves in. But Max Strafey, 1 bullet, but it's a bullet in the crater.
Well, it's advantage Passion UA now then, because Trojan lost that player. Suddenly their chances of winning this game has been significantly reduced and handed over to Passion UA as a full 3, because Forbidden also only a 2. But positionally, Passion UA are in a vulnerable spot where both Forbidden and Trojan could target them at the same time. So they just have to be a bit careful here. Either, if they get the kind of information that one of the teams is a 2, maybe they'll send it on to them. But at the moment, Passion UA just need to try and work out how they don't get targeted by both.
Yeah, Forbidden will have to move last here because they have the cover for the longest time. And Trojan decide that they want to try and play this train cut. They might be able to get an armor swap out of the box of 9 Impulse as well, which is going to give them a little bit to work with. And you can see that Remix Powers has done exactly that. Turbocharged Havoc also is going to help in this team fight, but there's an EMP, and now the push is coming in. They're going to be playing for second, and this is the go button now for Passion UA.
Yeah, I think Trojan got the info that Forbidden were a 2, and they said, we'll take the 2v2, we'll try and go for second place. They push in, they get aggressive, and they'll be rewarded. But now here comes the final remaining pieces. Passion UA to get the victory, to get the dub. Trojan takes second, but it was Passion UA who just had to wait at that point. Remember, they were in Fragment right from the start of the game. You mentioned it, Mark. They could be the team that could be the only survivors out of Fragment, and boy did they survive. They get a victory as well with Crypto, Watson, and Bangalore.
Crypto showing that he's still got some work to do in the ALGS pick that I've scrutinized many times, but sometimes it works out for you. And I think that EMP at the end as well, just a little bit of a, you know, it just kind of shakes up those fights a little bit, makes everyone a little bit stunned, makes it a little bit easier to cross that ground. And if you can play it properly, then of course it's still going to have an impact in that end game. But the job was made very easy for them, right? And I think you summed it up perfectly. The 2v2, they saw that opportunity to get a second place with some more KP, and that's their best way to get points on the board, right? So they play for that, and then it just makes it very, very simple for Passion UA to leave and pick up those final kills. But I think Passion UA did a great job of actually holding the bar building for so long inside of Fragment, holding off all the traffic or everything that was going down around them. And I think they need to be commended on the way they actually navigated that endgame.
Yeah, the fact there was, what, maybe 9 teams in Fragment at one point, potentially even 10, and only 2 were able to escape it, being Passion UA and Forbidden. They decided not to take that fight in Fragment. Instead, they both went kind of west and east. Sadly for Forbidden, they went into the side that featured a lot of teams on the high ground, so they kind of got shot from above, lost one of those players, and then it was just Passion UA in the final moments who had that 3, had the advantage, but they were rewarded for their positioning. We can look at the match results now as well, just to see how it all went down, and this is why it's important on set, right? If you are in the top 3 and you think you can get KP, and it doesn't matter if you win, you gotta go for it. Trojan, they still technically win the game with the most amount of points.
Yeah, very, very impressive. 12 KPs go alongside the placement points, like you say, gives them those 21. Passion with 18, looking elsewhere for kills and all that side of kind of good stuff to stack it up. Aurora did manage to pick up 6 kills on their way forward, and that's usually a good sign for them. Even if the placement points aren't brilliant for Aurora, historically, they have put good KP to go alongside it. So 11 points for them as we move down as well. And just looking at elsewhere, you look at GG, they managed to pick up 5 kills, which contributes to their 6 points overall. GoNext also managed to get 6 kills, although no placement points for them, so they were taking some fights but not getting anywhere near that end game.
Well, they were in that building of death where it was just team after team after team that pushed them. But if you can walk away with 6 points every single time, you're going to put yourself in a good position throughout the day. We can look at the stats and the damage. It was Trojan who were the leaders after they got that high ground advantage from taking down Aurora. They had the position just to drill everyone who arrived later into the zone. And I do think Aurora will be a little bit annoyed they didn't get further in the game, but composition-wise, the fact they don't have that defensive legend, the ability to maybe survive in those final circles, might just be to their detriment.
Well, Trojan, that is massive damage, by the way, across every single play. You know, 2K coming in from Moisin, and you got Ethernal and Remix Powers both putting up 1.7 and 1.1 respectively. It's really, really good damage, and you're looking at the assists as well as the kills. It looks very, very strong for them. So a very strong game from everyone, I would say, in that top 3 at the moment. Whether it's damage, whether it's kills, whether it's placements, everybody having a successful way of getting points.
Yeah, I think that it was a fun lobby to watch. It was a fun circle to watch. You said it's like old school Apex sometimes when you get circles like that. But everyone in Fragment struggled, but it was Passion UA who come out on top.
All right, then. Game 1 is done and dusted. It's time for us to jump into a break, but don't go too far. World's Edge is back just around the corner.
Alienware is the official PC and monitor partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series, where match number 1 is done and dusted. And it was a strong performance on behalf of Trojan, but it was Passion UA that came out on top in that first match with the win. And Dan, that was pretty textbook for Passion UA, but I really kind of want to give a little bit of love to Trojan there too. We'll take a look back at the end, see how everything played out. If you guys are just joining us here for the first second, everybody at home, you can see that it's really just Passion UA and kind of wait all of this out. So talk us through some of these final moments here, Gaskin.
Well, I think Passion UA's biggest concern was, will they get targeted by both teams? But the fact that Trojan got the scan, it allowed them to take the 2v2 fight and just push for second place. It's something that we're seeing a lot in Pro League, not just this season, but we see it so many times. If you can get second, you not only get the extra placement points, you get the extra KP, and for Trojan, it essentially gave them the win because they had the most points. But Passion UA knew if the other two teams fought, it was going to be an easy scoop for them in the end. We've seen some teams throw away positions like that, but not Passion UA, not when they had those weapons and not when they had that position as well. But it was the position they fought for right from the very start. A lot of teams banked on Fragment, and there was only really 2 teams that were on the northern side of Fragment that were like, phew, when they saw the fact that that zone was going to be pulling away, but just having a little bit of Fragment inside.
Yeah, and some of those teams that kind of called that zone and were trying to hold that area up there were Gaimin Gladiators, a team that did really well last time these groups faced off. We also saw Aurora up there getting involved, and it was Trojan that ended up taking Aurora out on that northern side. So as we head into match number 2 now, we'll have to see which of those teams continue on, kind of this little bit of a snowball, or if anybody else brings it back. It'll depend on where we end up with that next zone. But it was nice to start off with a little bit more central option.
Yeah, I think that Onset said it gave him the tingles or the goosebumps, whatever it was. Just some of those games where you know it's going to be an exciting game, especially when you get to those zones that pull away from very heavily populated areas because everyone has to try and scrap their way out of it at exactly the same time. But is anyone going to learn their lessons now as we go into map number 2? Are we going to see similar circles again? Remember, there seems to be lately in Pro League, after map 1, we get something very similar, but just a little bit shifted. Of course, it's all random, but it does seem to be patterns emerging.
We'll have to see how it all plays out. Maybe we end back up in somewhere in Skyhook as well. But also, for everybody at home, Challenger Circuit number 2, June 22nd through the 24th, okay? If you want to join, go register before the registration closes on June 19th at battlefy.com/ALGS for your opportunity to compete, to potentially get into the ALGS, play up here on the big stage with all of the names and teams that you guys know and love so well. Make sure you check that out. There's always an opportunity for someone to make a name for themselves here in the competition. But our players are locked and loaded. Everyone is dropping in, and it's time for us to kick off match number 2.
Yeah, try to make up for maybe some of the things that went wrong in the previous game and try and send yourself a little bit further into those leaderboards. I think teams that will be frustrated will be Gaimin Gladiators and Aurora. I think a team that actually will be happy with their performance will be FaZe, because they had all of the work to do. It felt like they had to fight through several different teams to go from west to east in that particular game, and it's about making those games count and picking up points when they are available to you, because eventually the zone will be, or it should be, favorable to you at some point, and then later on you'll be thanking yourself that you got some good points when it wasn't so favorable. And speaking of said zone, we're probably going to be heading a little bit further southeast now in this game, rather than it being central, if not all the way southeast, down towards Stacks and Big Mord.
That's going to make Full English and Forbidden really happy, based off of where they're dropping. But of course, we're starting off here with our winners of that last match over in Geyser, Passion UA, as they start up this loop path. And here you go, exactly what you're talking about here, Gaskin. Look at where that ring is going to go. I mean, loads of space. You guys had mentioned Dome at the beginning of match 1, how it's a place that not a lot of people go. Right now, it's giving Full English an opportunity to have this double POY loot situation so that they can kind of hunker down early.
Yeah, I think that Full English, when they get the ring console scanned, if they have a composition to do so, which I imagine they will, they're going to be delighted with it. My question would be, do they try and take Big Mord off of Forbidden? Because do they predict it's going to be pulling more towards Big Mord and that larger POI, or do they commit to Stacks? Because sometimes you can be rewarded for committing to Stacks if it does continue to pull to the southeast, but we have seen a lot of teams punished for it when it then shifts back up north, because it's not also guaranteed to be Stacks or Big Mord. It could still pull to the outside, maybe even further north in the choke towards Geyser as well. So we'll have to see where that third zone goes, because that's really going to change things for these teams who are starting in the southeast.
We could see a lot of our squads already trying to make their move in. Players was one of those teams who tried to do that in the last match. They were kind of hovering around the eastern side when Gaimin Gladiators and Aurora were fighting. Now we see them moving in early along that southwestern edge. anyone that was going to be in that launch site lava siphon area should be able to move in quite early and be able to at least try and claim some space, or maybe go for some more scans as the rings close and get some more information to make those moves in. Apex Warlords, one of those teams we talked about at the top of show, as a squad that needs to have a strong performance here today and kind of start making moves up that overall leaderboard, as they've struggled so far in our first few match days.
By the way, the most similar zone we've seen so far in Pro League to this one was again in APAC recently, and it was Fnatic who came out on top, dropping at Dome. So that could be good news for the full English, right? If they can replicate that kind of rotation where they go from Dome, they loot up at stacks at the same time, and then they position themselves in stacks. It did pull all the way southeast in APAC, but this circle looks like it's a little bit more north, which does make me think it could still be a big Mord zone, so that might benefit to Forbidden. As now the Apex Warlords, you were speaking about them, they need to do a lot. Can they do anything here? Can they actually get some damage here so they can continue on this push?
At least get enough damage to even get those shields leveled up, as everyone is still on white. They're not going to push that too hard. As you can see, JMW and Zero moving into that building and kind of waiting this out, looking to see if the Warlords will continue moving forward. They do have a shield disadvantage, so I think the Warlords might try to hunker down for just a second as we get to take a look at FaZe. And you were mentioning FaZe from the first match, Dan, because they didn't have too much to work with, but did pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, it's a difficult rotation for FaZe because they're dropping over towards Epicenter, and it is arguably one of the worst POIs on the map, just from statistically where people have been picking it and where their preferences are. We have seen a few teams find good points from it, though, and I think that's one thing we have to bear in mind with the POI draft. Even though it's not popular, a certain POI, we have seen teams who still can fight their way out of it. In FaZe, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. 8 points in the previous game, which is really good from Epicenter. Their only struggle here, arriving from the north and trying to get to the south, you either have to go through the choke in Geyser or the choke they currently push themselves through, and there will be teams waiting for you that have beaten you to the punch here. So FaZe just have to have that possibility of either going over them or taking that fight. But we've already seen FaZe a very strong fighting team.
Yeah, timing definitely working out for FaZe as they push their way through unscathed. Meanwhile, we've got some action kicking off here. 3D Max trying to see if they can stick a res. It's a 2v2 against a full English here in these buildings. And this was potentially going to be a problem for full English, as they were looking for a building to try and maybe claim as their own. Everyone else moving in looking to do the same right now. Surdell trying to see if he can maybe get some off angles and do some damage. A little bit of poke here with the Havoc. But full English are going to also be drawing a lot of attention for the surrounding teams.
Yeah, this is going to be frustrating for full English because they dropped at stacks, they dropped at Dome, they thought they would have the position, and then they got pushed and they got sent on here. And it's going to be not only one team, but two teams in the area now. So full English need to try and get back up to a full 3, but they may not even get the opportunity to do so. You can see they're trying to push the fight. They're trying to find these players, but they're making it so difficult on the other side, and it's just delaying and frustrating the full English.
Trying to see if there's a little bit of height that they can maybe utilize, but also not wanting to push it too hard. If they don't, they instantly lose. FaZe on the other side is all down to Surdell right now. Moves in, able to do even more damage. Does get 2 knocks and saves the hopes of full English right now. Will he be able to get a reset, though, and at least maybe escape with a little bit of health? Able to take out Trojan, does have some loot boxes at his disposal, but people are instantly following up this fight.
He's dipping, he's dodging, he can't dive though, as full English do get eliminated because Trojan, they came into the party when 3D Max were the team that initially took the fight. 3D Max said, okay, well, we'll take a pause, we'll allow Trojan to do the damage, and then now we will claim one of the more desirable buildings on the map. As the circle does continue to pull to the southeast here, we've got about 10 teams that already find themselves in the surrounding areas of Stacks and Big Mord. The circle does continue to pull south of Big Mord, so it was a good prediction from the full English. Sadly, they just couldn't hold their POI, and I think that's one of the things you'll look back at as if you struggled in a match day, when the zone came to you and you couldn't even get to the final circle, what are you doing wrong? Are you holding badly? Are you spreading yourselves out too much? Are you not expecting the push that early? A lot of questions they'll have to answer themselves.
Now we're jumping on board with Gaimin Gladiators as they move on towards Big Mod. should have Forbidden in the area, as well as a couple other teams just trying to make their way through on their rotations. So they're going to be keeping their eyes peeled to see if they potentially run into anyone. And we can see just how clustered up everybody has already become in stacks, trying to find any bit of building space that they can hold for now. And that's exactly why it was so difficult for Full English, because so many people moved in so quickly, and it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, like, again, though, I think that Full English had the opportunity to take the straight 3v3. They just weren't in the right position to do so. And when they look back at it, they'll say, should have we all been holding this same level together? Should we have given up and allowed 3D Max to maybe hold a level below us and just reside next to one another so that we can get to that late game and worry about them a little bit later? Was there any arrogance coming into it? Would be a question from me as well. Now, Aurora, they're moving all the way from the west at the moment, excuse me. And they have a long way to go. They're going to have to go south through these train tracks, I imagine. And then, what? Go through launch site areas? They could try and transition on the southern side of the map, but even that's going to be difficult. Anyone who is not in stacks right now, it's going to be an incredibly tough time to try and win this game.
And you saw that there was the potential for Blacklist to kind of shadow them a little bit. Blacklist decided to back off, go closer through Harvester, while Aurora is going for the wider wrap. As we check in with Atlas, and a little bit of a scrap there on the tracks right outside of Big Mod, where quite a few teams will find themselves. They should have Ethernal right next to them, who looks like that's the team they're kind of keeping their crosshairs focused on, while Gaimin Gladiators will still be over by Big Mod itself. Checking in now down in Dome, though, we've got Danish facing off against players. Everyone trying to find a safe choke to push their way through, and finding that it's already been taken by someone else.
I don't hate the position from Danish and players right now. Whoever wins this will be on the southern side, and if it is the same circle we saw in APAC North of day 3, then it's going to pull to the south side of stacks, that far south building and the surrounding areas of it. So if you're Danish, if you're players and you do control the south side, you will then be able to surely watch everyone else kind of die in front of you at stacks. But it's easier said than done, because it looks like both players and Danish don't really fancy taking the fight, because you don't necessarily have the information. You don't know there's not another team. You don't know that it's an isolated fight as well. So they're both trying to play it smart right now.
Might work out well for Danish, though, as you were saying. Whoever won was going to have that southern side. Well, Danish might be able to claim some of the last remaining building space. Meanwhile, cybercats inside this tunnel, trying to hold and do whatever they can as they're able to fight back and forth here with FaZe. They do take FaZe out, so cybercats now own this space. It's massive for cybercats.
Again, a difficult rotation for FaZe. I think they knew it when they saw it was heading all the way southeast from Epicenter. It was going to be a long old journey, but they tried to force the narrative and tried to push their way through the vault tunnel. Sadly, cybercats already residing there, and with a caustic and a pathfinder and a mad Maggie. What on earth am I seeing from the cybercats? But boy, do I love it. I love when people try something a little bit different, and it certainly worked out for them in that scenario. Now, Na'Vi are having a interesting position at the moment. They're on the far western side. They have to worry about Aurora. They have to worry about Vex. Let's jump into a listen and see what Na'Vi have to say.
He died.
You died?
Hey, just keep looking. Keep looking for short beats.
Yeah, keep looking at this.
You can walk up. You can walk up.
Yeah. I can put blood off for this one.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I'm popping
this guy, blood down here.
I never let my gun in open. Let's all swing in the all res.
30. One more.
I find at the back. At the back. Crack the kid at the back.
Yeah, shooting.
They're running in tunnel.
One died.
Bang crack.
Walk down, guys. Walk down. Fucking wipe this.
Yeah.
And get the building. Pop hand.
Two died.
Yeah.
One got rest, I'm pretty sure.
Two died.
Team behind the building on my side. I can't one hard.
On
I'm managing from top. I have good angles, okay?
Yeah, let's go. Back off the high. Back off the high. Punch.
Watch me! Fuck. Use fucking...
There's too many.
Yeah.
Can you pop out Excel? Do you have another one?
It's a fucking team on...
what we do.
as well.
But
yeah.
Okay. I mean, you can play behind the fucking thing is here. We're fine on that.
Drop me out Excel, kinda.
No to kill.
Okay.
Copy.
Guys, I don't think that's a full team on bridge. I think we force bridge back.
Okay. I see.
I don't think it's a full team. I think it's one guy playing.
I saw two.
Okay. I mean, they're just looking for kills.
Careful below, you tap it.
I'm looking. We're good.
Let me know if you need scan.
He's just running around. He has no clue. He's close to us. So
Yeah.
I'm soaking left side. I'm walking up.
Scan,
Scan.
Scanning now.
yeah.
In the room.
Front,
Yeah,
yeah.
back off.
Backing off.
Get in front from the outside. I'm on the back.
Chill inside here.
This is bad though.
Yeah, they have angle on the left. Maybe play
It's a
underneath.
team as well. I think we go right, guys. I think we go right to the ground.
Yeah. Drop here on me.
I'm to kill here. Ready?
Yeah, you're
coming.
good. We have to fight right, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Safe on me, safe
I'm
on me.
on the back, safe.
I'm looking at it, I'm taking space.
Yep.
I saw them outside.
They're taking angles in front.
Yeah, I cracked them, cracked the fuse.
Taking angles behind us as well, guys.
I'm going back, I'm holding up.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm holding the fuse.
I'm on the back here. Safe on
Play
me.
right side. Swing to kinda. We need to reset on this side.
Yeah, one's on the back.
Angle.
One bottle.
Just chill on me. Heal up here, please.
Yeah, batting.
Coming.
Okay, you got fuse ulted, bad fuse ulted.
Holding.
I'm bang ulting them.
On the medkit now.
Yeah, good kill.
Go
good
watch
kill,
out from the
good
height.
Yeah, careful height,
kill. No one will be hide. I don't think they will be.
I have scanning two boys.
I'm swinging right.
I'm swinging right and then I can scan.
Yeah. There is a team in tunnel. One on the boxes, look! Get him!
1 HP,
Nice.
Playing up!
And jump. Play from left side, go.
No, I can't play left, I'm playing right. We need to get into the building. I'm smoking my cross. Yeah.
He ran outside, Matape.
Okay, I'm just crossing over. Just get in.
I'm good.
I'm getting in.
Yeah.
In my room.
Understand. I know. Swing it,
I'm getting in.
1 HP.
No, get out.
I can't see.
I can't see him. Just he said inside, guys.
Yeah, get inside.
Team.
On me.
On me. Make the doors kind up, please.
I can't, I'm not with you.
We need you inside, please.
I know, I'm coming in.
I'm phoenixing. The team from tunnel is stripping.
Get inside.
Yeah, reset. We need to fight tunnel. We need to fight tunnel team.
Yeah, you have one now, right?
In 5%, I need back.
Guys,
Yeah.
they're outside tunnel right now. Come.
Behind us, I think.
Yeah, look on this team. Get one. Play for kills. Talking of that.
That might be one of the most chaotic things I've ever listened to. I feel like I am stressed vicariously just from listening to all of that. I mean, Navi have done a fantastic job of keeping themselves out of being sandwiched between two different teams, between Atlas and Vex. Vex now no longer a concern with cybercats helping a little bit, and Navi's just focusing on their back and forth with Atlas. This was handled beautifully by them, Dan.
It's been an emotional roller coaster for Navi, but is the final drop about to arrive, or can they somehow still find their way into zone? They have to try and go up and over here. This is not going to be fun for them. They are going to take a lot of damage and might just be arriving into absolute chaos, but at least they do survive. That's the key factor, and they need to find somewhere to play as a 2 here.
Oh, they might be landing right on top of another team, and they are. It's Blacklist, who was down on that low ground that Navi tried to claim, and there was just nowhere safe that they could have landed. Blacklist had a beautiful spot in here with some really strong shields as well, so that was going to be a quick pickup. That Devo in hand as well. I mean, Blacklist right now would not have been an easy battle for them, even if they were a full 3. So Navi do go down after a well-fought back and forth, and now we can see as everything continues to shift, look how far away from Stacks that is pulling, and all of these teams that are out in these buildings will have to start moving out into each other without any safe space. And it looks like cybercats, who've been holding that tunnel, and players right down there at the southern edge, are the most comfortable right now.
Yeah, they get about, well, we get about 40 seconds to relax after that listening, as do the players, before everyone who is in the northern side of Stacks has to move. But this is the southern building I was talking about, that is the only building that then stays within this final circle. Players, you mentioned it, they're on that southern tip. They're going to have a little bit of high ground, but they also are slightly exposed, so they'll have to use the little rocks, well, or big rocks that are going to be there and playable. But for Blacklist, for Apex Warlords, Passion, 3D Max, GoNext, they all have to move from the north at the same time. Maybe try and go for kills here. If you can see an easy fight and you can take it, it might be worth it. Or try and get out early. Maybe evac, maybe try and take a fight against players, because even though they hold that southern side, they are a little bit spread out at the moment. You could potentially isolate one. It would be tough, but of course they wouldn't know that until they got into the sky. My worry for players will be cybercats. You mentioned it, but here we go. The round 5 ring is now closing. Everyone's gonna move.
And this roof is about to be an absolute graveyard as 3D Max try to move in. Smokes are down so people can barely see what's going on around them, but some nice shield cracks coming out of 3D Max. Meanwhile, Blacklist going down in the kill feed to 3D Max, and now they're down to 1. Aimbot trying to escape and see what they can do, maybe hold off for a little bit while the rest of the teams fight it out. You've got Passion in the area, Passion UA, Nessy, Apex Warlords moving in. players trying to hold off cybercats and GoNext, who's actually made a massive move and moved all the way south.
Yeah, this was a brilliant push from GoNext Esports, and cybercats have stayed so healthy as well. This composition is so difficult to play against. When the Maggie Wrecking Ball comes down, it obliterates you, it disorientates you, and you cannot really do anything when it happens. Not only that, but then the Pathfinder to follow up, to put the damage on and jump on a team. I love this from the cybercats, but now can they do the same thing against GoNext, who have taken that southeast side? There is one player remaining from Gaming Gladiators on the west, and then everyone else is within this building as someone else just got eliminated. Nessy, Passion UA, and Passion, two Passions in the building, they're all holding this same position at the moment.
That actually might be a fantastic spot for Gaming Gladiators to try to rat safely, and while everyone else in this building is focusing on each other, cybercats will try to be scouting out in their general vicinity, but also knowing they do have to keep their eyes on GoNext, who could potentially peek them and deal damage that they don't want to have to focus on right now. So these teams on the southern edge is going to try and hold this out while everybody else inside that one building that was safe is trying to fight. The solo on Gaming Gladiators does go down to JMW, and soon everyone's about to have to push out of this building with GoNext waiting in the wings.
It should be GoNext or a cybercats win here, really. My big question would be, do cybercats have another Wrecking Ball? Do they have the accelerants to get the Wrecking Ball back? Because then they can force the narrative against GoNext Esports here and hold the northern side. Because GoNext, they will be in a position where they have to transition from the south, but everyone in this building now has to go, and it's going to be absolute chaos. Bangalore Ultimates are going to start to come down, vision is going to be impaired, and everyone's going to start to tick from this ring.
GoNext actually moved up very early before anyone else in the buildings did. They ended up right on top of Passion UA, and it's their downfall. They get eliminated. Passion UA somehow staying alive. They do lose Max Strafe. They're down to 2, or ticking lower and lower as the seconds pass. They go down to cybercats, who are still waiting on the southern edge. Passion go out. Nessy's still alive, and it's all down to cybercats and Nessy.
Cybercats, the last remaining team, with one of the most beautiful compositions you'll see on your screen. They take out Nessy, they get the win, and they've done it with Mad Maggie, they've done it with Caustic, and they've done it with a blummin' Pathfinder just to make Onset happy. What a comp, what a game, and what a position that they found themselves in, and fantastic play to be able to force the fights when they needed to, and they're rewarded for their aggression.
I wish I could have seen Onset's face as that was happening. I mean, talk about as off meta as you could possibly get there for cybercats, and they just played it so well. And think about how many people that they were taking out from that tunnel as well. They started off by removing FaZe from the equation. There were a lot of squads in that area that cybercats did a really good job zoning out with their combo, especially that Caustic being very helpful in those situations. But they played every single fight so well, and waiting it out on that southern side instead of making the push up like GoNext did ended up paying off in spades for cybercats.
A lot of versatility with that composition as well. You can of course get the ring console scans with the Caustic. You can make sure that Pathfinder selects the survey beacon, so then you can get beacon information as well. And I'll say it, Mad Maggie, one of the most frustrating legends to play against, not just for the riot drill, but the Wrecking Ball. When that comes in, if you don't expect it, you can't survive. You're just all in such a disorientated state. You don't really know where to go. You're kind of half blind. And if you've got a Pathfinder then zipping on you, just doing the damage, you're not going to be able to win that engagement ever. But we can look at the match results and see just how well cybercats did. It's an 11 kill game. It's a 23-point game for them, and they're going to be delighted with that performance.
Yeah, really, really good job on behalf of cybercats. We're seeing some of the KP spread out as well. Nessy with 6, Passion UA with 6. I mean, even 3D Max down there with 5, Blacklist with 6. It's because so many of these teams moved in so early to stacks and tried to claim building space that as people were moving out, that KP started to come through. So in general, some decent points overall for top 4, really going towards the results on the day so far as we take a look at the second page and see where everybody else shook out. And that was, there was just not a lot of that early game action.
A sad game for the Full English, even though they were able to get 3 kills, and it was a amazing last stand as well to make sure that they were able to wipe out Trojan, but sadly too many teams had arrived. Looking at the circle and where it pulled, Full English are probably saying we should have done better with that one. We had a big listen in with Na'Vi. Very interesting decisions that were made. I've been there a few times where I say there's only one player here, and then someone's like, actually there's 2. Oh wait, there's 3, and by that time you are in the middle of nowhere, you are stuck in no man's land, and it's so tough then to make your rotation because you've presumed it was going to be an easy fight. Now, cybercats, great damage all round. Again, I will take my hat off to a team that experiments with compositions, that goes away from the meta, and that's exactly what cybercats have done here.
Yeah, and really even across the board with their damage as well. Everybody kind of pulling their weight here, regardless of role or legend. And this was just impressive, because I think probably heading into that match, a lot of people would have seen the comp and been like, okay, well, what are they going to do with that? Well, they're going to win. That's exactly what they're going to do. As we get to take a look now what it does to the overall series results here so far, it puts them tied at first with Passion UA, who was the team that won that first match, finished pretty well for themselves here in match number 2. But now they're both at 29 at the top of our leaderboard, followed by Trojan at 22 points. As we move down from there, I mean, I'm kind of surprised though by the second half of this when I'm taking a look at the likes of Danish.
Yeah, Danish haven't been able to find the same form that they had last week when we saw them compete. But again, there is going to be the situation where teams, especially with the POI draft now, are going to have worse maps and worse POIs to go from. You have to just try and find some points from a bad POI. FaZe, for example, they're on 8 points at the moment. Not too shabby, considering they're in arguably one of the worst POIs on this map. So when we do move over to Storm Point, that's when they'll have to make the points count.
Yeah, and still lots of time for our teams to get those points, so don't worry about any of your favorites. But we're going to send it to a short break before we get into our last and final match on World's Edge, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Herman Miller is the official chair partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. Welcome back to the ALGS Pro League, everybody. Welcome back to the EMEA region, and welcome back, Pathfinder. It's wonderful to see him back, and it's wonderful to see him back at the top of the leaderboard, the championship banner, where he deserves to be, Dan. That was a very interesting game to watch from the wings, I have to say. Everyone's stacked up inside of stacks, and then I would describe as an int fest happened just before everybody left. It was quite something to watch.
And you have to imagine that FaZe will be the ones who are most annoyed when they kind of went through the tunnel and they run into a Caustic, Mad Maggie, and Pathfinder and thinking, what on earth am I playing against here? Like, how do you prepare for that? No one really mentally or physically prepared for a composition like that to go up against.
Well, match 3 is live already. No hanging about today, Dan. I'm absolutely loving the fact that we've got game after game after game. I know it makes you smile. In the same way that Pathfinder winning games in the ALGS makes me smile, you love games. Well, unfortunately, I've got ahead of myself, Dan, because it looks like we might have a remake of the lobby. That was bound to happen, wasn't it? It was bound to happen.
Cast a curse.
I'll take responsibility. It's on me. It's on me, everyone.
Sometimes it happens, and sometimes you have to put your hands up and you have to accept that it's entirely your fault. Onset broke the lobby. We'll get it fixed, everyone. Don't worry. But it does allow us to talk a little bit more about that previous game, because we were kind of rushing into it anyway, where usually we would have been able to speak about it I said that FaZe would have been frustrated about going up against cybercats, but I was wondering about your point of view from the full English, Mark, because if you're a team who drops at stacks and then you die in your first fight, then surely you look back and say, have we just thrown away points here? Have we thrown away the opportunity to pick up really good amount to try and put ourselves in a good place in the standings?
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, right? If you have first priority to where you think is going to be the best place to play for this zone, you need to make the most of it. And I just feel like playing the top of the construction building is a little bit, leaves you a bit vulnerable. There's so many climb ups, team can fly in early, a little bit of damage from a distance, and you can get split very easily. So maybe looking back on it, it's one of those that you're like, okay, on reflection, when the POI that we drop at and we've got this zone is where we find ourselves, what building do we play? Because I always like playing the most southern building, just in case you do have that pull away, right, towards the north, which is something that we have seen before. But you also have to give a huge amount of credit to cybercats, who decided, having seen everybody in stacks, having seen the ring console, that they were going to once again, much like we saw in game number 1 actually in Fragment, play away from it, play to the northern side of that zone, try and clear that. And then with all the traffic that had to lead, they were at least going to guarantee themselves some KP, and maybe not planning to win the game initially, but they kind of developed in a way with the zone pool that they ended up in the best position. And I kind of feel like that is something that teams have got to look at a little bit, right? It's easy to get into one of those positions, play the long game. But if you are in that position and playing the long game and the zone shifts away from the massive structures, the buildings itself, it's almost like a roll of the dice, right? Because we saw a joke like it's an int fest, right? Because everyone is looking for KP. Everyone is saying, hey, how do we leave? Maybe we just play for kills. Maybe we can kill this team and take that position. And you get that snowball effect, right? And I just feel like almost playing away from the structured buildings where everybody is almost like a slightly risk-adverse way of approaching these zones.
Yeah, and as we continue this discussion, we can look at the POI picks for everyone on World's Edge. As a reminder, it was Fragment that cybercats actually went with in the end, and perhaps the reason why they're doing it is because they do have a caustic, right? Sure, as a caustic player, as a caustic team, you can hunker down in the middle, but if you can find a choke point to hold, there is a lot of kills that you can pick up when you just get those barrels down, catch people off guard, and then you have the Mad Maggie and Pathfinder alongside it to be aggressive at the right time. Now, a few of the selections that we saw from other teams did surprise me a little bit. Monument being chosen before Thermal Station was an interesting one for me, but SkyWest and Harvester still seem to be the two priority picks on World's Edge, and for good reason, not only just for either positioning being central or for SkyWest the ability to get those Evo shields up. But it seemed like everyone was a little bit happy, but we are also starting to see people preferring certain POIs to others, even if it is statistically a better pick for some teams.
Yeah, and speaking of picks, I just want to talk about Path a little bit. And hey, surprise, surprise, I'm not doing it because I love the boy. I'm doing it for the reason of, I think that he actually offers quite a lot at the moment, especially with the perk system, how it's working. You quite rightly picked up on the fact that obviously you can hit the survey beacons, but also, you know, the fortified zipline is such a good way to either rotate across a little bit of treacherous ground because you're going to take a little bit less damage on your way across, but also the ability to zip onto a team having done a little bit of initial damage. If you're throwing out, you know, a Maggie ball at someone behind cover and then you see some ticks, you see some damage, you know you've got a stun. If you can get that zip line down and get over to them as quickly as possible, even if they shoot you, the majority of the cases that you're going to find yourself landing with still more HP because of that fortified zip line. So I think Pathfinder really does have a say. We've seen it, NRG run it in North America. They've had some success as well. And I think there's definitely value for me in Pathfinder at the moment.
I love that you play Pathfinder in ranked, right? And not often that ranked replicates ALGS play, but now you genuinely can give an insight of what you need to do as a Pathfinder player, or if you have a Pathfinder on your team, because it actually matters for cybercats. You're completely right. The Pathfinder has to be the one to initiate the push, and there are so many tools to do so. This is, by the way, the average draft position that I was talking about when I'm mentioning some of the more statistically picked POIs. SkyWest has been selected first almost every single time. Harvester up there in second place, Thermal and Monument in third and fourth. But you can see the average draft pick, because some people go for a Storm Point pick instead, it does bring down the POI pick a little bit here or there. But you can see that Harvester still is very popular.
One thing to just point out as well with the POI draft is when you see a team picking SkyWest and you're like, oh, they've got a great POI, they're going to have some great games here on World's Edge, right? You've still got to be able to play the game pretty well. It doesn't just guarantee you anything. And you quite rightly bring up as well the fact that it's great to have a SkyWest POI, and you've probably got a better chance at accessing zones which are all the way across the map because of the fact that you're gonna usually find yourself in a position if you path yourselves to that zone properly with some at least one red evo, right? But you've still got to make the most of it. You've still got to play the game in a way where you're going to take advantage of that opportunity it does give you, and we'll have to see if that's going to be the case here in match number 3. And good news, everybody, this one is a real one, I promise you.
It's a dangerous promise to make, but I'll believe you.
It's a real one, I promise you.
I'll believe you.
It's a real one, everyone, I promise you, okay?
But
Sorry,
I like what you're
there.
mentioning about SkyWest, because with the way that the POI draft works and the fact that your position in the draft changes week by week, the likelihood is at some point you're going to get to play SkyWest. But if you don't find success there, if you don't get the points that are expected of you, then suddenly the next week when you watch another team suddenly pick up those points, you're saying, I wish we had been able to find a better performance on SkyWest. It is not gifted to you, and I think that is the important words that you use there. Yes, you've got a good POI, but can you actually make it count? As we're into game number 3, the last time on World's Edge for EMEA here today, and we're going to be heading up towards Skyhook. So for all that talk about Skyhook West, well, we're going to be heading up to the north.
Well, it's a real opportunity to put some points on the board for those Skyhook West teams and trials, right? Because you can play that hype for quite some time. You can see that, and we're expecting maybe a pull towards Skyhook. Maybe get a little bit funky. It might go towards Countdown and Fissure a little bit. We'll have to see how it works, because we have seen a few we say unpredictable pulls in the last couple of weeks of action. But this is the opportunity for Blacklist International, right? They had a pretty good game in game number 1. They got in some good spots, but weren't able to capitalize towards the end game. And that's the thing, is getting a good spot is great, but if you lose that fight, then all of a sudden you find yourselves with barely any points on the board. That's the difference between a good game and a bad game sometimes. That one team fight in and around that god spot, and even though you might be prepared for it, if you don't win it, then it can really hurt you. One thing that could hurt them a little bit here, I would say, by having the zone so close to them is access to that ring console and that survey beacon as well. Not sure if they're going to be able to hit that immediately, because they know that teams are going to be flying in. So hitting it's going to be a little bit of a risk, and you have to wonder if they've already hit it, or if they're just playing the top of trials and saying, hey, we're going to play this position. We know off that first zone where we think this is going to go, and off of the back of it, they're going to try and just play the long game.
Yeah, and we have to really ask where this is going to pull as well. In APAC South, we saw it pull all the way to the north, just below the train building, which would be good for VexX, for Na'Vi, and those teams who are making the move to the northern side. But we have also seen it shift to kind of the southeast side of Skyhook. And you really, if you see that happening, if you get that trend after the Ring 3 scan and you notice it's going to be moving away, you have to position yourself in one of those buildings that is going to allow you to escape. If you are too far northwest, you're going to be punished for it. It is not an easy escape in Skyhook, so you have to be really considering the building that you take here with your first push.
Well, it looks like the Warlords. Here come the Warlords. Don't know why that's in my head, by the way. My brain is telling me to sing that. Apologies, everyone. But they're going to be taking this building, which sets them up well for that southeastern zone that we have seen in recent times. So this is a very good spot to hold for them. Just behind them is going to be Passion. They might be a little bit late to taking that building and have to play for the bar building next to it. But it's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of teams right now will be thinking, hey, we've seen a couple of zones in Scrim. One's to the north, like you say. Do we play for that, or do we play for this one down at the south? And it seems like, I would say upon reflection, it's a little bit of a split at the moment in Skyhook. Some teams are playing that northern side. Blacklist, excuse me, International playing for the extreme height of trials. They're probably going to be thinking it's going to the north based off that decision. But I think the Passion are actually in a pretty good spot here. And when it comes to zone calls, I think the Passion have been one of the best teams in the lobby.
There was also a very similar circle in EMEA Day 3 when it ended on the height in Skyhook as well. The kind of central cake building that you so often refer it to. So there's going to be a few teams that will probably try and play the cake as well, just hoping that it pulls that way. But again, there's been so many different shifts in Skyhook that it's difficult to get the prediction after Zone 2, which is going to benefit those teams who have the ability to get ring console information for Zone 3 here.
One team is going to feel pretty good because of the fact that obviously their POI isn't great as far as the draft position is going. They were last to pick is FaZe Clan, but they found a very, very playable spot here, and they have the Watson to bunker down with. So they are set up for the long game here, and they've got a little bit of flexibility. If it does move to the north, or what is now coined as the cake building, we mean the central structure, the height. Love that, by the way. Never been able to do that before. Just call something a name and it sticks. So thank you for that. They also have a little bit of flexibility to go back down to the south, where we saw Passion set up a little bit earlier. Elsewhere on the outskirts and moving their way from Thermal Station is going to be Aurora, and GoNext Esports are in front of them.
don't think Aurora have seen GoNext yet. So they're still on their looting path, and they're still just looking to try and path in a way that they can get the Evo harvesters and continue what Aurora do best, right? They're playing the lifeline. They want to get up to purple so that they can get that red as soon as possible. Once they have that red, that's when they start to get aggressive, and that's the advantage that lifeline can give you. But you just have to get to that purple first, and if anyone stops your pathing, if anyone stops your rotation, it can really impact your play as a lifeline team, because if you don't get onto purple soon enough, then you are going to be on blues, you're going to be struggling, you can't utilize lifeline to her best ability. So Aurora will continue moving away from everyone else for now. I don't expect them to be taking any fights, and GoNext, they are just going to be moving north, continuing to go so. They get the survey beacon information, and that will allow them to potentially hold off Trojan here, because they would have just got the information that Trojan are coming through these train tracks.
Well, elsewhere, you can see a fight is breaking out. It's pretty one-sided at the moment, but all of a sudden it got a little bit horrible looking. It's a 1v1 here for the Fuse versus... Oh, it's the Fuse who wins it, and arguably shouldn't have, because he had to reload his gun. That's a shaky one, to say the least.
Well, this is the cake building, Mark, and everyone is amongst the icing right now, and it's whether you can actually come out on top, because Babylon's very weak, but Vex still a 4-3. That's the important factor here, is that at least they didn't lose one player to go down. The Fuse, does allow them just to zone off some teams and some players, but now Babylon's falls.
Shots coming in for the Havoc, but not good enough again, and now Vex are on the back foot, but they managed to just about keep themselves standing here. Ethernal will be eliminated, and all of these fights going down in this central structure are pretty ugly to look at, but it's going to be Vex who look like they will be able to reset in this building. They don't have the catalyst though, which is going to be somewhat of a problem because they can't reinforce those doors that have been blown off by either grenades or fuse cues, whatever it might have been. But they do have the Fuse who can stagger people if they do try and come in those doors with that knuckle cluster. So Vex will claim the central structure. Nobody on top of the cake though, Dan. No candles. Sad times.
It was Danish last time where we saw this zone and this similar position that took the top of the cake and won from it, actually, because they were able to play the little crates on top of the building when the circle just pulled away. But we are continuing to trend north here, so not too much information gained for those who do have ring console, except that, yes, we're going to Skyhook. It's the next pull that will be the harsh one. It will either go up to the northern side up towards the cake building, or will stay on the southeast here, where kind of Apex Warlords are residing at the moment. So that could bode very well for the likes of cybercats, by the way, who are doing exactly the same as they did in the previous game, taking the vault tunnel, using Caustic to full advantage, potentially holding off and gatekeeping teams with that composition.
And I'm going to predict here that Blacklist International weren't able to hit that ring console, because look at their position now. Yeah, you're up on the top of trials, but access to the zone is going to be horrible for them if they want to try and continue their game a little bit later on. So a lot of decisions for them to have to make. Easy decisions, though, for Aurora and the Full English. And that is going to be, we're going to have to fight or at least force each other away in this position. Full English going to use the bang ult. They're going to force Aurora away for a few seconds. But elsewhere, you can see through the eyes of life in here that Aurora don't really want any of this. So both teams are going to actually come out of that in the way they would have wanted, I would have imagined. And Full English now looking at Mirage. That's why they want to continue their rotate, and they're going to hit the zip to do so.
I believe it was players who won this circle as well previously last week, and they went all the way from Big Maud to do so. So it's not one of those circles that is guaranteed to be won by a team that is going to be in Skyhook or the surrounding areas. Because you have the cake building, it allows people to drop late and kind of evac tower in and maybe take that position away from other teams as well. So that's certainly something that people have to bear in mind, that there will be late arrivals here as Gaimin Gladiators have taken a lot of damage.
Yeah, they are. They're playing this spot early, and I just don't think you can play it early. There's too many angles you can see at the moment. There's barely any cover to play with, and maybe this is a case of just arriving late, right? 18 squads remaining. They might be able to stick the res. The one good thing for knowing that there's a lot of angles is maybe you can get a reset, because nobody can overextend without getting shot themselves. But here come Atlas, some good shots with that Havoc. Are going to keep them in a little bit of disarray here. The question is, does anyone want to swing this? Because this is the problem. Every time everyone wants to engage and sees this as free kills, someone else says, oh, I'll shoot you back.
I mean, if Atlas or Gaimin Gladiators can survive on this northern side, then they'll be big favorites, heavy favorites to win this game if the circle continues to shift in the trend that it has been doing so far. But we've still got a minute before anyone gets that information. And also, you may not get the info if you're a team that already resides in Skyhook. It's going to be teams that are outside at the moment. As players, they've now lost 2.
Kishera's with that longbow. I just saw Blast get absolutely obliterated by it, and he got downed. And just for a second, I was going to say, GG somehow look like they've managed to reset. And then that happens, and now they're down to 1, I believe. 18 squads still remaining as we see a couple of trades coming in the kill feed, but nobody's still being eliminated. Players just down to 1, as you can see on your screen right now. And we'll be able to play underneath for a little bit of time at least. It seems like no other teams have recognized this is a solo for now until, of course, Vito is going to be scanned at some point, you would imagine, but escaping in that position, hoping that the zone pulls away and you can kind of scupper away and get a few extra placement points as a solo is all that's on his mind right now. No chance of getting those banners, no chance of getting them back up to a full 3.
So there's only 3 teams outside of this next zone. Blacklist, who you mentioned up in Trials, who are kind of be asking themselves, how do we get down from here? Mummy, please come pick me up. It's one of those situations you can't get down the stairs, but Full English and Aurora are on the southern side, both looking to get either ring console or survey beacon information before they move their way into zone here. Everyone else, though, is somewhere within Skyhook, as it looks like, again, Cake building and surrounding areas is where we're moving to. We're going to be continuing to go a little bit further north, but a slight shift to the west. And this is now looking a little bit more like that Danish win we saw last week that ended just to the west of the crate on that Cake building that we talk of. So maybe an opportunity for Danish to do something similar in the building they find themselves in.
Yeah, you can see Aurora at the bottom of your screen as well. They're hitting an evac tower to try and swing round and avoid Full English, who seem to be trying to shoot them out of the sky, but good luck from there. We have some talented players in the Apex Legends Global Series, but I doubt that Aurora will be taken down from that kind of distance, and indeed they are not, even though they looks like they took a little bit of damage, so fair play to the Full English. But this zone pull is going to be interesting, right? Because we talked about Passion, Apex Warlords. They said that, we said a little bit earlier, if it pulls back to the south, like we've seen before, that they could be in a good spot, but now they are in a horrible spot because they have to move through all the traffic that's inside of Skyhook already to try and get anywhere near this zone. If you're wondering where the end zone is, like Dan said, if you've seen this one before, it's essentially where GG were a little bit earlier and taking so much damage. That's where the game's going to end. That height's going to be so vital to success.
And it was actually Danish, GG, and Passion who were the final 3 when we saw this pretty much exact circle last week. And we could have a similar scenario where all 3 teams get to the late game as well. But I really am happy that we're watching Aurora and their journey, because it's a very interesting one. They're up to a red and 2 purples, but where do they go? Can they find anywhere to play? There should usually be a building in Skyhook. That's one of the benefits of arriving late. There's only a certain amount of buildings that are going to be taken, but they're still not going to be within that next circle. But of course, they don't know that yet.
Yeah, they don't have that information, unfortunately. They can see where everybody is, and they might have been thrown off by a survey beacon they hit, because they would have seen some teams were down to the south, a few to the north, and they're going, okay, let's try and get in, let's play for a building that's safe. And unfortunately, with the roll of the dice, it's the south, not the north, that they ended up going for. Of course, they only had a certain distance on that evac. Speaking of evacs, here comes the Full English, trying to take away maybe the central spot in among those crates. Now, a little bit later on, this becomes a pretty good spot to play, but this is what happened to GG earlier, right? So many teams still alive here, Dan, that this is looking rough.
Oh, it's hot. No. Yeah, it's just one of those things you can't escape. There's just so many people.
Indicators on my screen.
But they do get the bat off and somehow just about survive. They can see very little at the moment, as the same for me. But the Full English will have to use the catwall just to get that vision cleared and reset momentarily.
I mean, the one good thing for them is they got full red Evo armor, so they can survive a little bit longer than GG could earlier. But then you're talking about meds, then you're talking about angles, then you're talking about late game. Can you survive till then? So many angles. You can see at the moment the Full English are just saying, hey, let's just keep moving. Let's just keep moving so that nobody gets an easy one clip on us. And finally, they find a corner of these crates to play. But with no Watson, you're always worried about grenades in this situation. If someone gets some damage and team starts to move in a little bit later, a couple of grenades, and before you know it, you are exploding into 1,000 pieces.
Well, Aurora, after making their long old journey, have now forced their way into zone. Cybercats also go down elsewhere, and Aurora will hold the eastern side at the moment, but they'll have to go through GoNext and VexX, who are in that Cake build in the middle. But boy, Rain just, again, obliterating people from a distance. Maybe teams that were unexpectedly in that scenario where they said, all right, well, we should be clear from the east here. But of course, Aurora being the late arrivals. Now, Apex Warlords, they've been quietly going about their business, but it looks like they're about to try and do something a little bit louder.
Yeah, saying a quick prayer as they go up this one, because nobody knows what's going on right now. This is a blind evac for them. They're going to try and find somewhere to play, hope that they can land somewhere that someone else isn't already taking position. And underneath one of these structures is probably one of the safest bets. So even though it was blind, And even though it's a little bit risky, it's playable. And they're in this next zone, and now they're trying to be aggressive too.
Yeah, very aggressive. They do get some initial damage to work with, but they back off together. You can see they're all kind of focusing the same areas, running as a trio, not getting split off because they don't want to be isolated. 3D Max and Trojan go down as 14 squads now remain. And we might lose one more potentially, but everyone else seems to have found somewhere to call home. So it should be okay. We should be able to get to the next zone with still a very healthy amount of teams here.
One team to note as well is Blacklist International did manage to fall down from trials and have survived. They're just kind of to the north of things at the moment inside a market. Passion UA eliminated in the meantime. FaZe pick up some more kills themselves. And FaZe, I mentioned how they were in a very good spot in this building. Well, look, it was safe for so long that with 7 squads already out of the lobby, they really didn't have to do too much. But now is that shift. Now is where they will have to make a little move. Passion will be eliminated. The final player will go. And hey, remember the 30-30? Well, still does some damage.
Still works in the right hands. Now, this, even though it's a bit more north than the circle that Danish won last week, it is similar in the way that the crate that's on the top of the cake building is still within play of that circle. So I think it's GoNext Esports who are on top of the middle building at the moment. They'll be able to just push out and hold that crate and potentially go unnoticed and be able to nade from above and have an opportunity maybe to get into the final 3 here. But there is a lot more teams alive than there were last time. FaZe being one of them. They are in the position on the south. They have to try and find their way north. Let's go to a listen and see what FaZe is saying.
Go far left. There is. I don't know if there's anything far left. Can you scan the building? They might leave actually. No, they're not.
That's one left.
What two teams on left.
Okay, then we need to scondo.
Okay, ready? Come.
Yeah. I'm gonna pop dogs.
Smoke out, smoke out. Yeah, that's good.
Smoke here again.
Yeah, you're good, you're good.
You got me? Got me? Still good on me?
No, I'm dead, bro. He's just peeking on the right. Gonna drop.
Oh, this is fucked.
You good? He's peeking down here. Might drop on you. Nade. Wait. Try now. Don't know. I have no mech kill. I'm just about, okay?
Yeah, dead. Yeah, bottle in.
Found him. I can't fucking climb, bro.
You're good. Chill. Just don't move.
You're not in for FaZe. Well, it's looking like that. Nessy eliminated in the meantime. FaZe still alive somehow, and if they can get one more placement hit down there, they will get some points, and that's what happens. Na'Vi will go down, and somehow Synetic has managed to find his way into the top 9 now as Danish and the Apex Warlords will fall.
Just quietly going about his business. By the way, GoNext Esports left the top of the cake. They were forced off in the end, and they did not take the crate because they were being focused by too many teams. 6 teams now remain. Blacklist and Aurora kind of squaring up against each other. Atlas hold the southwest, which is one of the strongest positions at the moment, I will be saying, as Aurora are just trying to survive this kind of bombardment that they've been taking from Blacklist International.
We'll say Aurora have done pretty good to get into this position, into these placement points. Hardeki is left on his own. It looks like a res might be coming in, and Rain will get back to his feet, and with the gold knock as well, means that he'll be ready to fight. Blacklist International, watch that zone, buddy! As the frag grenade forces Nessy to just panic for a little bit, just as I did, but Blacklist International, who did land at Sky West, this is their opportunity. Down 6 squads remaining, and they're in a great spot.
It should be Blacklist International or Atlas here, as now Gaming Gladiators and the Full English are going toe-to-toe, and the Full English have the advantage. Just Lufka left to try and make it, but no! Lufka will do it. Full English, they look like they had it, but Gaming Gladiators still somehow come out on top. The knockdown shields doing the job here.
And GG, remember, they were in a horrible position early on, managed to survive, managed to get out of that little ditch, and now made it into the top 5 as well. So a fantastic performance in the clutch as well, coming in from Lufka, meaning that they will guarantee themselves some more placement points here. Atlas, Peacekeeper in the hands here, which is always a nice thing to see as well.
Aurora have been able to get back up to a full 3, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're going to be forced into play. FaZe have gone down as well, but like you mentioned, Blacklist International now have to go through Aurora, who managed to get that reset.
Well, Gaming Gladiators will be eliminated. Now it's Aurora, Blacklist International, and Atlas. Atlas and Blacklist International on the edges. Aurora at the moment are the meat of the sandwich, and they just want to try and avoid what they can, but there is not much cover to work with here. Teams are going to be forced into one another a little bit sooner than they would like, as evac towers now go down, potentially as a distraction, or maybe as a last-ditch attempt to try and avoid gunfire.
Also a good way to vault some fences if you need to in the end. So it's a 3v3v3. Atlas versus Blacklist International versus Aurora. And it looks like Blacklist International have made a play for center zone. So they will have to move last, so to speak, from their position. But have they just put themselves in a little bit of a pinch here? That's the real question.
It is a dicey scenario for them, but Atlas should be able to get initial damage on someone. And you can already see Aurora get the first knock.
Uh-oh. Aurora got a knock, but they also had one go down themselves. But Hardeki is still alive on that lifeline. He might be able to pop that res. However, it's an opportunity now for Atlas to jump up and do some damage. This is just back and forth. Nobody really feels like they have full control. Now the Dark Veil's going to go down just to split that zone.
So much responsibility for Black Venom on the Catalyst because he can bounce back and forth through that cat wall and now can jump up. Now Aurora eliminated and now Atlas can pounce.
Atlas move in. Atlas get the win. And that Dark Veil might have been the difference. It just gave them a little bit of breathing room to reset in those final moments. And by doing so, allow the other two teams to just scrap long enough for them to move in and finish off those final pieces. So it's Atlas who get the win here in our final game of World's Edge.
Yeah, being able to hold the building, the quite large building that Atlas did for the majority of that game, or the majority of the end game, gave them so much commanding space as they got into that final circle. But there was a lot of thought process for them when it's a 3 versus 3 versus 3. If you step out even slightly the wrong way in a final circle like that, you will be punished in a lobby like this. So they very tactically were kind of poking, they were prodding, but they didn't overcommit, and in the end they just picked the right time.
Yeah, interesting to see that a lot of teams that were on that high got focused a little bit earlier than maybe what we saw in some previous games that have ended in and around that end zone. Maybe not the best of place to play. Maybe someone evac'd in a little bit late. We'll have to go and watch that back. But I was impressed with the management of that end game. You can see it was very panicky for a little bit, but that Dark Veil just allowed them maybe not just the breathing room and the space to reset, pop a heal, but maybe just mentally, just to clear the comms a little bit here, just to calm things down. And by doing so, everyone else takes care of the damage, and they just moved in for a simple finish.
Yeah, simple is how it looks in the final situation like that, but it's going back to what they did in the mid game, in the position that they took, which really got them into that final circle. And sometimes you want to go back, you want to watch where they shifted from, where they pushed, which teams did they get aggressive on, which teams did they successfully hold off. Because when it is a skyhook circle, you are going to have those scenarios where you have one of the better positions, people try and take it off you, and just like others have struggled to do, you need to be making sure you're fighting well as a team.
Yeah, very, very good job from Alice in the end game to close that one out. I've got to say a huge amount of credit to GG as well, just to get to that position from where they were. Just remember when they evac'd, when we last checked in with them, they were right down on the southern side of Skyhook. So to work their way all the way through into a top 3 position for that end game, fantastic navigation coming in from the team that you had your eye on to put some more points on the board today, and that's a very good way to do so.
Yeah, I think a few teams needed to step up today with not necessarily a struggle in the leaderboard, but perhaps not being at the tippy top where we have seen them before, Aurora being one of them for sure, and we'll have to see whether they can carry on their form, because World's Edge has been where Aurora have typically succeeded, and then Stormpoint is where they have fallen short. But it's 19 points for Atlas, 18 for Blacklist International there.
And Aurora, I would say that is probably the most un-Aurora-like performance when you're looking at placement versus kills, right? They get 7 placement points, but just the 1 kill, which is somewhat surprising to me to see. The 8 points overall, they'll take it all day, but Gaimin Gladiators in behind them as well. They're going to have 11 points in totals. FaZe, again, very solid, I would say. Points total, only the 5, which might not seem like a huge amount, but keep in mind, POI draft, last pick, and decent points in every game before they head over to Stormpoint in the mill. The meal? I'm hungry.
Meal!
It's a very good thing. Speaking of meals, just behind them is going to be full English. 8 points for them as well. And I've got to say, I was worried for them when they slammed into zone in the way that they did, right into the center, into those trenches and crates, but they made it work for some time.
And then cybercats, after their incredible match 2, couldn't really get going in match 3. They tried the similar style of holding the vault, but I think as the zone shifted away from vault, no one really went through it. Everyone went around, and they were either kind of evac towered over the vault area. And with a composition like cybercats had, they didn't really have the opportunity to break into zone like maybe others can. So tough for them, but they will certainly be happy with the match 2 performance to still keep them at the top of the leaderboard, or near the top, should I say.
Ethernal just with those 3 points, but it's the 3 KP from what we saw in that pretty crazy fight in the middle structure, in the middle of the middle structure, the tallest one. as we take a look at some of the stats coming in from match 3 and the damage that was done. Atlas with the biggest damage you can see in that top 3, and shared out, I would say, almost perfectly between the 3 players.
Yeah, everyone looks pretty similar on every team there. But a lot of damage is all round. Atlas were that good, we want to see them 3 times. But composition-wise, that's what you expect, right? From a circle like that where you do benefit from the Catalyst, Bloodhound, Bangalore, that is your tried and tested. You should expect to be able to find yourself with a good amount of points.
Well, let's bring Lauren back in because the games are done here on World's Edge. It's time for us to turn our attention towards Storm Point. But before we do, Lauren, I think we've got to have a little quick look back at what we saw.
Yeah, we're going to break everything down a little bit because a good amount of variety that we actually saw in our first 3 matches on the day. We got 3 very different zones, 3 very different outcomes, and lots of opportunity for some of those teams that were either in the middle of the pack or towards the bottom, like we had mentioned at the beginning of the day, to start picking up some points on the day and really having these strong performances. Atlas definitely being one of them. So I'm actually enjoying what we're seeing so far out of EMEA. Obviously, we're now done with World's Edge. Things will potentially change. Shifting on over to Storm Point, open up some opportunities for some of those other teams as well that maybe struggled on the first map of the day. But we'll get into all of that in just a little bit, because the first thing we have to do is do our halftime. And halftime is one of the best times because we get to bring in a guest. Well, today we have a very special guest. We have Shiv FPS ready to come hang out with us and chat all things first 3 matches. Shiv, welcome. How are you?
Yo, hello guys. I'm good. How are you guys? Hello.
We are fantastic. Very excited to have you on here to chat with us. First things first, though, for anybody who doesn't know, maybe give everyone a little bit of an update on how you're feeling and how the resting up is going.
Yeah, so I've been resting up, you know, using the thumb braces for the thumbs. I've got thumb tendonitis, so I've been trying to rest up as much as possible using the thumb brace, just resting up day by day and hopefully healing up slowly but surely. It's going okay, yeah. Each day that goes by gets a bit better, so yeah, it's good. It's good. Just resting up.
I'm glad to see that you're starting to feel a little bit better. By the way, love the new look. It's a beautiful beautiful look that you've got going on there. I want to talk about how it is for you mentally a little bit to watch from the sidelines, right? Because you've been involved for the ALGS for a few seasons now, and it's obviously something that's kind of taken out of your hands, so to speak. And I know that's a bad pun on where the injury is, but you know, how is it to have to sit and watch the games instead of being involved with them yourself?
I mean, to be fair, I mean, like mentally it's a tough one. Like either way, I think. Then again, even while you're injured or, you know, you have hand pain, whatever, it's tough to play as well, you know, like, but watching from the sidelines, it's also tough as well, like mentally. But I mean, essentially, you know, it's just tough either way, I think. Even playing like while injured is tough. So I think mentally it's just difficult either way, I think. And then watching from the sidelines on top of that is tricky.
I'm sure the Apex Warlords will be performing better knowing that you're supporting for them and rooting them from behind. But we can start to look at some of the final circles. You were, of course, watching in the wings, and we'd love to get your opinion on some of these. The first one, Onset said he got goosebumps because it reminded him of classic Apex Legends, a very central zone.
Yeah, that zone that is pulling away from Fragment East. Got that high ground there, of course, the cliff side. Trojan up on the high ground as a duo. There's another duo below Forbidden as well. Trojan looking to play for second here and try and push Forbidden there. There's a full Passion UA though on the right side. We're just ready to pounce. Crypto EMP goes out by Passion UA as well. So that helps them even more so, and then they're just going to clean up as well from the side. Passion UA, so win it from the side. Thirding these two teams, these two duos.
It was a very easy cleanup in the end. I love that Trojan pushed for the second place, knowing that they were in a bad position. Match 2, we saw a stacks finish. I just wanted to ask you, Full English died very early as they dropped in stacks. How detrimental is that to you as a team if you die at the zone where it finishes?
Oh, that's very tough. I mean, mentally, I guess that can be quite devastating, I guess. Yeah, just gotta maintain composure, I guess. But yeah, very detrimental, I guess, to your mental when something like that happens.
It certainly is, and Then we went to watch on, and it was the cybercats win. What do you think of the cybercats composition? Caustic, Mad Maggie, and Pathfinder coming into play.
Yeah, very unconventional, unorthodox. Very strange indeed, but they did it. They got it in the end.
Certainly worked out for them, didn't it? And then we moved into Skyhook here, which was tough for everyone, but Atlas got the win. Any thoughts on this third and final circle?
Oh, I mean, it's just straight chaos right now. It's craziness. Caustic ults going out, Catalyst walls, jumping over the walls, just straight chaos right now. Atlas here, duo trying to, second player trying to stay alive, reset right now. Playing time while the other two teams fight, it looks like. And then pushing over, trying to third party, and Atlas win it in the end. So I didn't see that until now. So.
It's been a really good day of matches so far, and at the end of it all right now, we get a chance to take a look at the series results with Passion UA just barely squeaking past cybercats by 1 point right now to hold that first place spot. But in general, even like our top 6, top 7, top 10, I guess, really, depending on how good people have when it comes to performances on Stormpoint. But in general, the theme in EMEA so far, Shiv, has been that it's a really close region right now in Split 2. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on just EMEA's competitive ability in general.
Yeah, EMEA right now is playing pretty damn well. Very close and very competitive. Yeah, right now. Yeah, it's great for EMEA right now.
Yeah, it's been really exciting so far. Well, Shiv, the OG Bangalore, thank you so much for jumping on and chatting with us here during our halftime. Obviously, best of luck resting up, and I'm sure we'll be chatting with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys.
All right, we'll say bye to Shiv. We will also say bye to Gaskin, who gets to go take his break now that we are done with our halftime, which also means he's just very eager to leave. Which also means, Mark, that it's now time to start talking about Stormpoint. We've wrapped up our World's Edge matches. We're switching things on over to the new map. This could open up some opportunities for some of our teams that have struggled in the first half of the day.
Yeah, and of course, you got to talk about the POI draft again, right? If you had a bad pick on World's Edge, then usually you're going to have a good one when it comes to Stormpoint. And you're looking at the teams who managed to kind of amass a few points here and there on their weak POIs, on some zones that maybe wasn't going their way. And then you flip over and in the back of your mind, you're like, hey, we're playing from one of the best POIs here on Stormpoint. We feel very confident with where we're going to drop. And speaking of which, I got to look at FaZe again, right? I've mentioned it already. They're landing at the mill. That is going to be first pick for them. One of the best POIs, great loot, great access to consoles. You've got the Trident next to you as well. You've got so many quick rotates that you can make with that Trident, as well as hitting, of course, some Evo Harvesters on your way to zone. So FaZe, this is their opportunity here to, I would say, capitalize on a pretty solid start from a bad POI that they had on World's Edge and really take control of this lobby.
I think I'm also going to be keeping my eyes on Gaimin Gladiators, who obviously have a better POI here on Stormpoint than they did in World's Edge, because they were the team that did really well last time these two groups faced off against each other. And like you mentioned at the top of the show, obviously that first day was the first time we were implementing this POI draft system, so maybe things were a little bit different, but I still have pretty high expectations for Gaimin Gladiators. Yeah,
me too. I think they've had some fairly decent games, or certainly been in some pretty good positions in and around that sort of halfway mark when we get to that top 10 teams. Elsewhere, you're looking at GoNext. They're going to be dropping it over at the wall. They've been in, I would say, a similar story. Aurora, Devastated Coast is a little bit of a rough one for them when it comes to picks. They're right down the bottom there, but we know that Aurora made it work. I mean, Cenote is where they played from historically on this map, which, I mean, it's not going to be number one when it comes to picks a lot of the time, but you can see they're playing from the southern side of the map. They're going to have a lot of room to play with. And if you're either side of Aurora, for example, like Nessy at Coastal Camp, then you're going to have your kind of head on a swivel, because they're not going to be afraid to push you. You got cybercats next to them as well. So be aware of Aurora is usually a good rule of thumb when it comes to these lobbies.
And then, of course, all of that combined with the decisions these teams are making, the rotations they're choosing, where the zones are going to be shifting, and favoring some of these squads. Potentially, we've seen a lot of central pulls over towards Jurassic and Pylon, so we'll see who that could benefit as well. And I'm excited to see how Stormpoint goes, because there is still a lot of points on the line to be grabbed by these teams that need to make some big moves.
One team who's not going to be too happy with their POI is going to be Passion. They're dropping over at Trident. They have to be careful with North Pad Zone getting aggressive on them early, but they will have, of course, access to the Trident to shift around a little bit quicker once they do get that loot on board. One team to keep an eye on, I think, that's got a pretty good drop as well, is going to be Passion UA. If I wasn't mistaken, they're dropping somewhere on the center of the map, so they have some pretty good rotates, and I think point-wise have been pretty consistent so far today as well. So if they can keep that up with some decent access and priority to some of these zones with that central POI, then they're going to be in a really good spot playing from Cito.
I like that show. I like that show. We'll have to see how our teams do on this first match of the day, or at least first match here on Storm Point, as we get into it straight on board with Atlas. And we'll get some of that zone information as well. Mentioned them when we got to see that flyover. Atlas is the squad that's going to be kicking things off over in Jurassic, so they'll be relatively central as well and could utilize that to their advantage, as all these squads are going to start looking for that ring information.
Yeah, ring console going to be vital here, and hitting it as quickly as possible as well, because some teams are going to be thinking, hey, this is going maybe up towards Cascade and Wall, and it looks like that is exactly where we are going to be going, maybe even actually towards the towards Trident, where Passion are going to be dropping towards those egg buildings. So a little bit of a rough zone if you're not there early. Not a lot of playable space, which is something which is fairly synonymous with the northern side of Storm Point, but this is a little bit of a rough one. And Passion, who, like we mentioned, in the POI draft had one of the worst picks, and probably thinking, hey, this ain't too bad, this POI draft. I quite like it, to be honest with you.
I think you did that. I think you just blessed them a little bit with a little bit of good luck.
My PayPal is available for anyone who needs it. Don't worry.
GoNext, though, also will be pretty comfortable, and they were a team that we saw doing a good job on those World's Edge matches, positioning themselves well, getting into those final circles, and at least getting some KP on the board. So we'll have to see what they're able to do, considering that they could have the likes of players in Gaimin Gladiators starting to rotate towards them and try to see if they can go for the northern side of that zone. But you did mention Passion needs to at least take care and pay attention to Blacklist up at North Pad, and you can see a little bit of a scouting mission there on behalf of Passion as they're trying to figure out which direction these squads are coming through, which chokes they have to be paying attention to, as Ethernal, Danish, Trojan, everybody moving in.
Yeah, a little bit of a, we'll say, a poke battle going down at the moment over Elrod and Zeus Station. It's Gaimin Gladiators and the players who are politely waving at each other and letting each other know that they are in the vicinity. Looking at what information certain teams have got available, you can see Zeus Station, I'm pretty sure they had a survey beacon to play with, if I'm not mistaken, just waiting for the players to the player icons to move, so we can double check that for you. Elrod, you can see that they don't look like they have a huge amount themselves, so it's gonna be interesting to see how they play it. But I think the overriding story for me is this is a really rough zone for the southern teams, because historically we know that Storm Point is a big hill, right? You're working your way uphill a lot of the time, and the fact that there's such little playable zone, and the fact that you've got to go through cascades where maybe some teams are going to be playing a little bit late without zone info, it's a really, really tough rotate to make. So I think teams like Aurora, cybercats, if they can make their way towards the end zone here and somewhere involved in that top 10 and just getting any placement points, I think they'll be pretty happy considering where this zone is going.
Well, we're checking in with Danish right now as they're surrounded by quite a few of those early rotating teams. Already all on blue and trying to utilize the smoke as they continue moving forward. They are taking a little bit of poke damage as they get down into those trenches and try to escape and start hunkering down. At least you can see just how many teams are already trying to look their direction.
I mean, this is a rough zone if you're not there early. It's as simple as that. That's why you're seeing everybody who has the potential to get into zone early making a play to get into zone early, whether it's taking a fight, whether it's just evacing in. Everyone is making a play at the moment, and that means that you're going to see this early scrap happen in and around the trenches, because when everyone arrives at the same time, it means that someone is not going to survive, someone is going to get landed on, someone is going to get thirded in this situation. And there's about 4 or 5 teams. You can see FaZe being one of them, GoNext being another, and GoNext look like they've already lost a player. FaZe are trying to chase down the final 2, but they can't overextend here because they'll give that spot away. With everyone arriving, it's going to be rough for them to try and take it back.
This is definitely the most early game chaos we've seen so far in our matches today. And FaZe do look hungry. You said they didn't want to overextend, but they also want to try and clean up this KP, maybe potentially anticipating the fact that it's going to be rough to hold anywhere in this area. You can see Nags, though, no shields. Arctic the farthest forward and trying to continue doing damage, but FaZe are a bit spread out, and now is the time when they decide to back off.
Yeah, a little bit of a kind of double-edged sword here, right? Because you're looking at FaZe and you're thinking, hey, they had a good spot, but they got that knock. And looking back on that situation, FaZe want to try and chase down those last 2 kills, probably because of the amount of traffic that just arrived in and around the spot they were holding. So they were like, okay, let's try and secure this KP, let's force this team away, and then let's try and move back to our spot and retake once maybe some of the damage has been done for us. So FaZe actually do make that play. They move back now. They will have to heal up, but they'll have to be careful. But this is the worry. Cinetic takes some damage, but at least on the Bangalore, he can get away, hit that smoke, and get reset.
The one benefit that FaZe does have right now is that if they at least play this northern side, they know that they won't have anybody at their backs, and they mostly have to worry about GoNext on one side, Blacklist on the other, but it's less congested than where everyone in the trenches currently is, so they might be able to back off, reset, and just kind of reassess how they want to handle moving forward. As we get to take a look at Nessy slowly making their way towards the zone and heading towards a choke that is about to be very filled with quite a few teams. So they're going to at least try and get those shields evoed up if they want to push through a potentially very hectic spot.
Yeah, this is, I think, a choke that they want to try and hold. Moving any further through is going to be very, very difficult for them because of the fact there's so many teams already in and around Trident and the Egg. So it's going to be tough for them. Na'Vi are going to find the same thing now as they move in from the west side. But Na'Vi historically have played these kind of zones in this kind of style, and they also have a Trident to play with. So they'll be able to hit the, I should say, they will eventually. Hold up, let me start this sentence when it gets a bit closer, all right? Henchmen will eventually be able to hit the survey beacon to get some info on where those teams are going to be going, and then with the Trident they will be able to boost into a spot if they see it.
So everybody's been there before, okay? It happens to everybody, and either way, they're at least going to get the information that they need. It might take them a little bit longer. They will have to keep their eyes open for GoNext, who are going to be looking to potentially gatekeep them, now pushing back into safety. And now we get to see what we've got going on here with Gaimin Gladiators. They were one of the teams rotating in from the eastern side, now going up against Full English as they're able to get a knock to open up this fight, and they do trade one in response. It's now a 2v2. Blast, 0 shields, looking to escape.
Look, they're doing a really good job actually to get that exchange when it came to kills. Trying to crawl back. Both teams look like they want to try and reset, but the reset's going to come in first. As now they're going to try and push on the back of it, the Full English. This is an opportunity, but there's that catalyst. There's the advantage of just little things, right? They can reinforce that door. That's going to buy them 2 or 3 extra seconds before Full English can make that push. They can get the reset. And both teams now inside a command center are going to be in a 3v3 position once more. Full English knew that if they tried to send it through that door, if they tried to force that fight knowing that they had that knock and the res was coming in, there's an opportunity that someone just gets easily knocked as they poke through that door. So I think it's a smart decision for both teams here. They've both played it pretty well to think about the longer game as opposed to the immediate kind of, shall we say, success of winning that team fight.
Yeah, and you can see that as the Full English decides to back off, they're also pinging that Evo Harvester, which they could grab on their pathing as they head out of this area and potentially put themselves in a better spot, like you're saying, for the long run here. So still have to be aware of what Gaimin Gladiators are going to be doing, and they can kind of take this opportunity to really force Gaimin Gladiators back and own this spot for now. And this will be a decent setup for Full English. They don't have too many other teams to their west immediately that they'll have to worry about after they hit that Evo Harvester, because everyone else might have rotated past by the time they make it out. So at least for now, should be safe.
Yeah, they should be able to hit this Evo Harvester and all get out to red as well. You can see that Lifein's only got 216 Evo left until he levels up. So Full English are playing for the late game. I think they recognized pretty early that their access to this zone is pretty terrible. So they're going to play to make sure that they can fight their way in. Elsewhere, Nessy, oh, it's looking a bit shaky for them. Shots coming in from multiple angles, from multiple teams, and the CJ already down. Noisy is looking for some Hail Mary sticks to try and change the trajectory of this fight, but it looks like it's only going one way at the moment. Passion UA moving out from their position. They want to try and clean up this damage.
Yeah, this would be a great opening fight here for Passion UA. Nessy, the first team out in our first Storm Point match, and Passion UA taking a little bit of damage in response, but able to back off to these rocks and use that Watson to kind of create a defensive perimeter here for themselves. I mean, it's like you've said a few times, this is a situation where if these squads know they're not going to be able to get anywhere late game, try and pick up some KP along the way and at least get some points on the board.
I was going to say for Passion UA on our screens, by the way, I'm coining a phrase right here. This is a golden game opportunity for them. What I mean is bad POI in the POI draft, but zone is right on you. These are the ones that don't come along that often, so you have to make the most of it. Elsewhere, the cybercats aren't moving very much. This is what we call setting up for an ambush. Ever been ambushed by a cat?
I can't say that I have, no.
Have you ever been ambushed by a robotic cat?
I think that would be 10 times worse.
Oh, we'll find out if that's true. VexX eliminated, by the way.
I'm just lying in wait there at the cybercats, listening for those footsteps and deciding how they want to handle this. Henchman rolling in.
just
cruising.
Bacon. It took him that long.
As soon as he gets there, though, they look the way of cybercats, so they know that they're crouched there on that stairwell. Team's back in the trenches, though, still trying to keep themselves alive. Ethernal on blue shields as they look straight ahead of them and need to try and at least fend off this squad. They opt to rotate away and create some more space for themselves, as there are quite a few teams clustered up on the western side that Ethernal is currently holding, and this ring is about to collapse on them.
Well, I mentioned golden game opportunity for Passion. They are bang center in the zone. They are inside the two buildings and they're split holding it at the moment, so they are holding so much good ground. Everybody who's here at Storm Point will have to fight, and Na'Vi are finding that out for themselves. And here comes the pounce from the cybercats. They get that first knock, and now they're looking for more as well. The scan's going to be here for Cleve. He's just spraying with that car, trying to get those final kills. Na'Vi have to drop down to the low ground, and there's multiple teams in the vicinity here of Checkpoint. Gaimin Gladiators are here. Na'Vi down to just 1 or 2, I think, and GoNext are also in the vicinity, so everybody has to be careful, but all these teams are just playing for kills.
Might be their only option right now. cybercats did a really good job of taking that engagement, even when their spot was no longer secret. Now Gaimin Gladiators trying to clean it up, and I don't think that they've moved in quick enough. cybercats able to look their way and kind of decide how they want to take this fight now. Gaimin Gladiators looking for that information and seeing what they can maybe do with it, but right now it's a little bit of a stalemate.
Yeah, I mean, they have to fight. This is the difference, right? GG know they have to fight, and cybercats holding them out makes it a little bit more difficult for them because they're just going to have to send it at some point. There's no way they're getting through that choke without being shot from above. You see an evac tower go down, 1 or 2 of those. I wonder if that's the final Na'Vi player who's trying to make a little bit of a play down on that low ground to escape all of this carnage and maybe find a rat spot in zone. But GG, you can see they're just being held up at the moment, and cybercats and them, they need to fight, and they need to fight now.
You can see they're looking for a little bit of opening damage, maybe some sort of advantage that they could try to push, and they're just not finding it. Gaimin Gladiators using those smokes to try and back off. They might be able to sneak through, though, with this wall. They are looking for cybercats, who do take the balloon, though, and decide to fly straight in towards where Passion is holding. And that actually saves Gaimin Gladiators in the process.
It does. I mean, GG stay alive and cybercats stay alive as well, but this is the definition between a literal rock and a fence, which we can describe as the hard place, and they know they have to push this situation. However, they are taking damage. The caustic barrels are down. Apex Warlords will be eliminated in the meantime, as 4 teams are now out of the lobby, but cybercats have somehow managed to take the bottom floor here, so it's a really good push, as also Aurora will fall. So we're down to 15. 5 squads have gone.
Really, really solid play on behalf of cybercats to make the decision to not try and hold behind that wall and just have to make that aggressive move inside. It's going to pay off for them momentarily as Passion decides if they want to fight, but Passion is all on blue shield, so it won't be to their benefit if they do decide to make that move. Meanwhile, checking back in with FaZe, who's been on this northern side the entire time, trying to do some damage towards GoNext, who I believe are just a 2, so we'll have to see how FaZe Clan wants to handle this engagement. Why don't we jump into a listen in and see what they've got going on?
Okay, I'm coming in.
Dead. One more left. Running away.
He's in the right. Just chill.
One shot.
Dead.
Gonna get killed. Getting.
Nice.
Go behind.
Yeah. Grab cells, okay?
Yeah, cells and heals.
What about? It's hold.
Look at the rocks here, okay? We need to get like up there. No.
Not good. We're not good
The
anymore.
rocks on the front there. The rocks on the front there. We have to kill right side. We're not gonna wrap this team and kill them.
Yes, come.
They're blues. Yeah. Give me cells. They're blues. They're blues on the far right.
I have 30 bats still.
I'm good. I'm
good about. I'm good.
Just come to me. I didn't get the fan on my knock. We need to fucking.
You have ulti now? No.
I do.
All right.
You're looking. They know.
Scan forward.
Okay.
Dropping.
Fucking full team there, bro. Do we just try and kill them?
Yes. There's a car here too.
I got fucked. Buddy. We're gonna have to kill him, bro. I banged with the power.
Okay.
Can we go from left and fire maybe? And
can we just catfall above them, and just shoot down?
Yeah.
There's another team on the left. They're gonna get shot. Yes. There's another team on the right car.
One. Flash.
Get the kills.
On me. One of you.
On me. Dead.
Can I walk forward, maybe?
Wait.
I'm walking forward.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
Scanning
going
forward. Scanning forward.
We need to kill left.
Okay.
Run.
Dead.
Dust him.
Spin.
Can we go?
Run up. Yeah. They're fine. Inside.
Heal. On me.
On you. Dead. On the left.
Come on.
New team. Blue.
Blow.
Oh, come on.
He can't do anything more. That's good. Good game.
That's a good game. Good job, us.
Well, FaZe try their best to clear that right-hand side of the zone. They do a pretty damn good job of it as well, picking up a lot of KP, but eventually just one team too many to go through.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, so many squads were moving at the same time as well. They had the shield advantage over quite a few, and like you said, did get some good points. 3D Max, though, are the ones that end up clearing out FaZe finally and holding behind this rock for at least a limited amount of time, but there's still Ethernal over to their side, trying to push into them, and at least this Jenny doing whatever it can to prevent the use of any of those nades coming in, but 3D Max will have to make a choice here soon and push up towards Ethernal.
Yeah, it looks like 3D Max getting swung on from behind. I was about to say for a second, by the way, that Gen, I don't know how it didn't eat that Arc Star. It hit a few frag grenades, but I thought the Arc was going to get eaten as well, but 3D Max might not be in a position where they're going to have much more of this game to play in a few seconds. Aimbot is last alive as we now find ourselves with just 7 teams left. Elsewhere inside of the zone, cybercats still sharing the building with Passion. GG have moved up into the other building as well, as you can see on our map overhead. Ethernal have a solo. 3D Max have a solo as well. Trojan still alive, and Full English as well, who we saw in Command Center last time, also alive, and they have the complete control of the northeastern side of the zone. They will have to move, but they're in a pretty good spot to make some plays here.
Looks like they want to see if they can maybe move in early and start to knock out some of these teams that have been holding one of the only safe buildings. They're right outside of Passion and cybercats now as that bang ult comes through. Full English looking for anything, but no one is really poking their heads out right now, and you can see this shield advantage that Full English will have when everything starts to kick off.
Well, the 2 solos were taken care of by the lobby, so now it's just full teams alive, and GG probably in the best spot because 3 teams are stacked up on the building that they're looking at, and make that 4 teams, as now the Full English might get sent themselves. Angler Roll's going down as well, which is going to give them a little bit of time. Phoenix does have the ultimate on the Bloodhound available as well if he wants to use that to maybe send it onto one of the teams through some smoke, but at the moment they're just trying to hold the line. They're trying to make sure they don't get swung.
They're doing a really good job zoning people away. They also do have their bang ult available if they want to use it or need to kind of keep anybody away from them making their way out of those doors. Trojan have somehow also moved into a corner, and they start pushing in with that EVA 8, take a lot of damage in response for it, now down to just 1, and they are barely holding on to life, not able to connect those shots. Full English go down the second. Trojan is also eliminated.
So we're down to 3 squads, and all of them are full. Passion, cybercats, and GG. GG have the most space on the map at the moment, and cybercats are taking a little bit of damage themselves, trying to pop those batteries, trying to get healthy once more. But there is that first knock coming in from 0-0. He manages to find one, and cybercats, there might be a shield swap, but it's not the best one in the world, but it's enough to keep them alive in this game. Ranch is going to try and swing back in. He'll be taken down as well. Cleve last alive, but he is getting peppered by multiple teams.
How has Cleve held on for so long? Passion goes out. Gaimin Gladiators, like you said, had the best position, and they win match number 4 on Stormpoint. What chaos just went down in those final moments. Cleve had a sliver of health for what felt like an eternity while everybody else was fighting off to the side.
Yeah, GG just had the best spot there. You can see that I think at one point the 4 teams all collapsed on that building. The teams who were on the outside of zone are thinking, hey, we need to fight to try and take one of these floors or at least the outside, and there was already someone there. So initially that fight breaks out. Those two teams take care of each other, but it was the sending side of the building just towards the end. Again, a team playing for second place, probably think we can get the KP here in a second, which just made it very, very simple for GG. But I mentioned, you know, golden game opportunity. Passion get inside of that top 3. They get some KP as well from a terrible POI pick. I think they'll be very, very happy to see that zone end in the way that it did. But more importantly, very, very happy that they got the points on the board that they should have from that POI drop.
Yeah, I think that was massive for Passion. They also had to deal with quite a few of those teams trying to push it and take their position, and did a really good job of not allowing that to happen, which was what we saw happen in some of our World's Edge matches with teams that had the zone work their way, specifically Phalanx, when we were talking about what happened in the game at Stacks. So it's, you know, you get to see both sides of that coin with some of these teams.
I think FaZe played that zone really well as well. You know, they had, unfortunately, just too many teams to go through, but having got themselves into a situation where I would say approaching from the west side of that zone is pretty rough, especially if you're coming all the way from Mill. Then you have to play for KP at some point, and getting into a decent placement with a lot of KP to go alongside it, again, is a pretty good game for them, and just shows the value of Mill even on a bad zone, because you can hit that trident, you can get to a fairly decent position and fairly good access to any zone across Storm Point, and then you obviously pick up those kills alongside it. I mean, look, 8 kills for FaZe. It's, you know, the 3rd most points in the lobby that they end up getting through those kills. At the top, of course, is going to be GG with 18. Cybercats just behind them, and Passion with that golden game advantage, like I say, they get the 9 points as well, which they'll be very, very happy with.
I mean, we see a lot of KP being spread out right now just due to the fact that everybody was clustered up together for so long. So some decent points on the board for a lot of our squads. To take a look at the second page, and even moving down, you see Forbidden there with 3, Danish able to pick up a couple, and then some of our squads who went out a little bit earlier not able to get the points that they were looking for. Notably, we had talked about Aurora, expecting more out of them and seeing what they could kind of bring to the table here today. This is a slower match for them.
Yeah, no points there for Aurora, which is something to talk about because of the fact that we didn't expect too much from them in that game. It's a very long distance for them to go to one of the most difficult to access zones on the entirety of Storm Point. As we look at some of the team comparison stats as well between number 1 and number 2 teams in that game, placement points obviously understandable, but it's kills and assists almost identical. You say GG obviously managed to shade it, maybe with that final battle that they did have to win the game, but across the board pretty even between the 2 teams.
We've seen some really impressive performances out of cybercats, but did even mention the fact that GG have a better drop here on this map, and last time these groups faced off they did well, so we were wondering what they'd bring to the table this time around. Clearly doing well for themselves here in match 4, and now we get to take a look at the series results and see what that means for everybody else. Cybercats still in first at 42, but GG right behind them at 40. Passion UA right behind that at 37. No one is letting up anytime soon.
Yeah, this is one of the closest overall leaderboards I've seen in quite some time, with just 2 games to go in the day. I mean, you're looking 20 points separating the top 10 essentially, and then 20 points separating the bottom 10. It really is a case of everybody who sat in the lobby right now is thinking, we win the next game, we are in a great position regardless of where you are. If you win 2 games in a row, you're probably going to win the thing. So a real opportunity here with 2 games to go for every single team to have a real good shout of some good points today.
All right, well, you said it. We still have 2 more matches left on the day here for EMEA. Before we get into that, though, it's time for a short break, so don't go anywhere. You're watching the Apex Legends Global Series.
Battle Beaver is the official controller partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Apex Legends Global Series. Goodness me. I was thinking about the scoreboards overall there as we came back in for a second, and I was kind of just going to go like, I don't think we've really had a closer leaderboard as I can remember for quite some time going into the final 2 games, and it made me say welcome instead of welcome. Anyway, what did you take away from that last game, Dan? Because it was a pretty carnage-filled one towards the end, but I think there's a few teams that have come away from it feeling very, very positive about those results. Yeah,
I think we're starting to see consistency from some of the top teams. I mean, Gaming Gladiators, Cybercats, Passion UA, they've all been in and around those final circles quite a few times now, but it's about coming away with a good amount of points. And the fact that all 3 of those teams I've just listed have now found a victory poises them all perfectly for these last 2 games to try and come away with a win throughout the overall standings. And for the Gaming Gladiators, who we had previously highlighted as winning an entire match day before without finding a map win, I think it's important that they were able to get one on the board.
Yeah, it certainly was an important one for them. Landed over a lightning rod for Storm Point as well, so they were able to wrap from the north side to get into a good spot for that end zone. Not the I would say the most challenging of rotations. I'd say that's 5 out of 10. I would say 5 or 6 out of 10 for them when it comes to how far they had to travel to get into the zone, and also the angle that they were approaching it from. So good job for them to manage to convert an opportunity for them. Just a reminder, by the way, at the bottom, if you want to watch a little bit of FACEIT, you can do exactly that. Watch your favorite teams. Head over to fce.gg/watch ALGS if you're want to watch how GG play this next game as well and see if they can go back to back. But heading into these last 2, Dan, I said I was a little bit obsessing about the leaderboards. It's understandable why, right? 20 points separate, 40 points overall, I would say, almost separating the entire lobby with 2 games to go. You can get that. We've already seen 20-point games fairly consistently from the teams who win. So if you are right down at the bottom right now, you're probably thinking, hey, there's an opportunity for us here to do a little bit of magic, a little bit of magician work coming in, some I would say scoreboard gymnastics to try and jump up into first place.
And it is interesting that Cybercats, Gaming Gladiators, and Passion UA are all towards the top end of the leaderboards, because they are 3 of the teams who got the top 5 POIs on Storm Point as well. They opted to pick Storm Point maps for their first pick rather than go for a World's Edge side, so they should now be benefiting as we moved over to Storm Point, but they were able to get good points on the board for World's Edge, which I think is the key factor here, and we'll have to see whether now they can really start to disrupt this lobby and maybe make a gap at the top, because yes, it is very tight, but there is starting to be a few teams now that are falling away from the rest of the pack.
Well, I was about to say, when I saw Zone 1 pop, I was like, this isn't the same zone, is it? And good news, everyone, it's not exactly the same zone whatsoever. We are about as central as you can possibly be on Storm Point. Have you ever seen a more equal Zone 2 than that?
Spotted near me.
That is close to being bang in the middle.
Isn't that like bang in the center?
I feel like I need to get my compass out. Not even a compass. What was it?
A ruler?
What did you used to know? You used to put like your pencil in it, and then it would like spin a little circle.
Yeah.
It is a compass? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. You just want to put it dead in the center and then try and make a circle around and then see what happens. Wow. Well, we're probably going to be seeing a few teams that might prioritize Cascade Falls. Just because there's playable space there. The buildings that Apex Warlords are also heading towards, we might see it shift to the east as well. Someone in production just said it's a protractor, not a compass. So I don't know what on earth we're both thinking about.
What can I say? Like, this is why we cast video games and aren't in charge of any kind of navigation or anything important in the world. But Apex Warlord, thank you, production, by the way, for keeping us honest. You can see Apex Warlord. I think that's where we're going to be looking to play for this end game. I don't think it's going to pull towards Jurassic, although I have been mistaken a few times on some of these zones that we have seen on Store Point. This is where I'm more expecting it to end, outside of these couple of buildings towards the riverside and those rock formations. So teams who are there early, like Apex Warlords, are going to be set up for quite a good time. FaZe Clan are also already inside the zone. And now, all the way up at north, towards Northpad, you can see Blacklist International take a little bit of damage early.
5th place in the moment as well for Blacklist International. They've had a few good circles to play with. I think that they benefited from their World's Edge drop. They're going to need something a little bit special, I feel, on Storm Point to try and keep up with the lobby leaders at the moment, but at least they're not too far away. So it's not like they have to chase particularly hard. Just need to have one pretty good game, and then suddenly they are going to be back within that question of, can we actually win today? But if they were to fall short here in match 5, that's when you start to say, okay, well, they're not really going to be able to catch anyone. But it's going to be a move from the north to the south. They could potentially go down through Command Center or just to the slight west of Command Center if they wanted to.
Yeah, and just looking at this zone, this is I would say one that's a little bit better for edge teams. It's not one that has a lot of buildings in it. It's one where you can kind of level up your evos and fight. We are also seeing a little bit of a fight going downhill still at Northpad between Ethernal and Passion. And it looks like Ethernal did manage to get that first knock and finish onto 0-0. So your reward is not only a firebox, but also there's a trident there for them to play with as well. So it looks like disengaging is Passion. They're going to try and escape and maybe think about a res a little bit later on. Not sure if they have those banners or not, but it looks like it's going to be Ethernal who'll come out on top here at Northpad.
Yeah, and that means that actually Ethernal will be the only team arriving from the northwest as well. Everyone's moved pretty fast as we now check in down towards Pylon, where there is a fight, and it's Na'Vi who are going to be taking this. It looks like they've done good initial damage, and they're carelessly pushing at the moment. They must have done a lot of damage to be able to take these angles.
I was going to say, it's almost reckless in the way that they're flying forward at the moment, but the difficulty, as we know, of pushing this POI is that you have the extreme height. So cybercats, even though they are at an armor disadvantage, certainly, with 2 whites, they can just hold this high ground, and it's going to have to be a very coordinated push off of damage if Na'Vi want to try and make something of this. And I think if you're Na'Vi at the moment, you're thinking, we tried to take this fight to force them off of height to continue our rotate. Now that we haven't won it and got that knock, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for us to move through Pylon. So some decisions to be made for them, how they want to approach it. But speaking of approaching it, here comes Nessy, and they're in a really good spot for the late game here.
Yeah, I'm curious where Nessy are going to go, whether they're just going to try and hold and make themselves big and play this open space or not. Now, all of the Pylon commotion that was happening has drawn attention of the one and only Aurora. They start to make their way from Launchpad. They have noticed that there was noise happening, and I think that Na'Vi, potentially losing a player here, have run away to just try and get back up to a full 3. No, they are a full 3. They've just decided to dip away from that fight completely, so cybercats successfully hold them off and will now have Pylon for their own.
Yeah, I think it's a good decision for both teams, to be honest with you. Oh, we are seeing some kills come in here. Hold up, because Atom is hitting some really nice shots with that flatline. The gold mag is certainly going to help him just hold that trigger for a little bit longer as well. And even though they weren't able to convert on a full team wipe, Trojan holding some good space here. A third-party opportunity broke out, and they were more than happy to take it. Speaking of fights, here's another one going down this building.
Yeah, this is a big fight for Blacklist International to win. If they are able to achieve this, they'll hold a pretty prominent position within the zone. But at the moment, they just can't quite find that correct angle. They were able to get the knock, but they need to try and press up on it. There's a res that's attempted, but not succeeded.
Really good damage coming in there from Hyaka as well. Moving past that pylon, and you would imagine that this should be a pretty comfortable, I was going to say, fight for them to finish off. But they've got to be careful. They don't have good angles here to play with. And the last thing you want to do is make this a 2v2. A couple of stray teams and players having a little poke through the doors as well, because this is one of the prior positions, and the opportunity to third party can never be passed up.
So many Watson fences, and you're asking yourself, is this our Watson fence? Is it their Watson fence? Where can I walk that is safe? Well, nowhere seems to be safe within that building, and it's going to get even worse, because the Gaimin Gladiators look like they're going to take a sniff, but they do not like what they smell, so they decide to just back off. But you can see the circle is going to be moving even closer to this building where Blacklist International are currently trying to siege.
Well, Jacko's moving in here. He sees some more damage. It's an easy cleanup onto Passion UA for him, and it's thanks to Blacklist International who keep putting this pain on from the outside of the building. It just makes life very, very comfortable for them. So we're going to see these kills go down, be converted, and it looks like finally the battle for the building is going to calm down for just a few moments here.
Now it means they hold center zone here, and you'd think as long as they can way off any pushes that come a little bit later, Blacklist International should be able to get towards the late game, if not even to the final 5. Other teams that have also found a position, Forbidden, if they can hold that area, they're going to be in a good spot. Trojan also, the remainder of them, they're going to be in a building that they can work with. The Gaimin Gladiators did, for a short while, think about pushing up onto Blacklist International, but I think they realized the building they reside in is also a pretty aggressive one as well that can really pick up some kills, because when teams arrive from the north, which they would presume is going to happen, there is kills that can arrive to their front door, pretty much.
Elsewhere, you can see Aurora playing for every single piece of Evo they can get. One player is deep into the zone. Well, let's just say deep into the zone. He's in the zone. Picking up an Evo Harvester, also the access to Ring Console and Survey Beacon for them at Stormcatcher if they want to try and play for that as well to get the extra Evo. And they're going to be approaching from the south. This is kind of zone that I always see Aurora do extremely well on, because they're able to walk in late, play one of those chokes, and with the armor advantage, they win a fight. And then when the momentum and the adrenaline starts flowing through them, we know that they can take over and clear one side of the zone extremely easily. Elsewhere, GG, you mentioned, inside of Cascades at the moment. They're going to be safe for the next zone and the one after that. Just playing the height of the biggest building. And just playing, like you say, for those rotators in from the waterfall side and from the north. So GG in a really good spot here. Second overall, 40 points on the board. And they don't have to do as much as other teams in the lobby at the moment. They're playing a little bit slower.
Yeah, unless suddenly the others around them decide to pick up the pace and have a huge game, the Gaimin Gladiators can confidently say at this point, we have an opportunity to win this match day. Even if we don't have a good game here, we are in the mix. And that's important going into match number 6 for sure. But they want to put themselves in the driving seat. You want to make sure you are number 1 going into it. As Na'Vi around Jurassic Park, after arriving late, remember, they were fighting against the cybercats down at Pylon, but Na'Vi dipped back into the red. Now they're healthy as a 3 on purples, and now they are behind the cybercats, griefing the cybercats as they try and make their move through.
Well, cybercats are trying to hold them out again, so they're saying, okay, Na'Vi, you want to do this again? You saw how it went the first time, not the way you wanted. More than welcome to try that again, but it's probably not going to go the same way, or probably is going to go the same way, excuse me. Why would they say it wouldn't go the same way? Trojan eliminated in the meantime, and Passion, if you'd have managed to get out, that's kind of the leftovers of the battle for the big building, so to speak. A lot of alliteration in that sentence, but that's the one that was center zone that we saw Blacklist International come out on top of. They're not out of it quite yet. Players just holding the top of the zip line at the moment. They know there's a couple of teams who might want to wrap in a little bit later on them. Some of those teams, like I mentioned, that was solo from Passion. Danish might come this way as well. So they're just clearing their backs for now. It's always such a vital thing to do. So easy to just forget about that 1 player, 2 players who come up behind you, deal that damage, you get 30, and then you're like, ah, we should have watched our backs.
That solo from Passion should be able to escape the eyes of players, but might just run into Ethernals a little bit later. As, oh my, that's a heavy zone shift. Blacklist International are going to be delighted with that one. This is the kind of circle I thought it was going to be, but I did not think it was going to be that much mountain coverage, which makes things very difficult for those who are not in the building that Blacklist International find themselves in at the moment. I do like the position of FaZe Clan right now, just for the fact that they could pick up some potential kills in that choke and they can play it for a while, but then getting into the next circle is going to be a concern for FaZe. So it's whether they move soon if they have the information, but I don't know if they do, as now Nessy trying to survive in this building.
Nessy taking damage. Noise is going to go down, so Xerath is going to get that first knock here for the Apex Warlords. I think people are realizing that with the zone shifting in the way it is and teams arriving, his property becomes extremely higher value. Forbidden now, trying to swing it and finish off a little bit of damage. We haven't spoke too much about them today. Only 15 points on the board, but like we mentioned, with the scoreboard so tight, one big game for any team at the moment will completely change how your emotions are going to be at the end of this day. Nothing on the scans at the moment. No one to really peek. As we're seeing the buildings that were previously kind of split held by teams, all of a sudden people are just happy to take one floor. As the Apex Warlords still looking for more targets to try and find, but not too many. And you can see that FaZe is taking damage himself.
It's very messy here on the southeast side. Warlords, Forbidden, Cybercats, Atlas, and Nessy all so close in proximity. And if you allow one player to go down, you're so vulnerable to then a push potentially happening when people realize you're weak. So many Bloodhounds to give you that information as well. And the sad news is, for all of these teams, they will eventually realize they are not going to be in one of the better positions. It's just team upon team upon team right now.
This is one of the things about these buildings. Yeah, it's one of the only buildings in zone, and looking a little bit later on, we'll say the same, of course, about Blacklist International's building, but there's so many windows, so many difficult spots to try and hold teams off from firing from the outside in, peeking doors, peeking windows, coming up the staircases. It's very difficult to make sure you're covering absolutely everything. And GG now made their move from Cascades to the building that we were talking about for quite some time. So GG have made the play here to try and take the building, which they believe might win them the game.
They'd hope so, because at the moment it was Blacklist International were there, as I spoke about this position from FaZe, as they're able to get the wipe onto Na'Vi arriving late, but now Danish coming in for the third party. And are we going to see a reset potential? No, FaZe do not get back up to a 4-3. Danish coming in at the right time.
Well, the hipfire is going to take out FaZe. The final player will go down, so FaZe can hold once, but not twice. As we see Aurora now alongside GG. Trying to fight for this building one more time. We're going to jump into the comms now at GG as things are getting hectic.
Yeah, he's staircase.
Nice staircase last. Chill. Don't die now. One die. Getting window. I'm getting near that everywhere. I'm scanning. He's below you. Yeah, Resi, we can. Hold it. Hold stairs, like. I'm nading. Double nading it. Resing. I have your res.
Hold. All that. Kill on him.
I'm weak as fuck.
I'm on.
Look, reinforce this on me. Whenever you can.
I want everything. Upstairs.
Nice. Really good.
You have traps on stairs, yeah? It's bad trap on stairs. Bad trap.
Dropping ult tack on the ground.
Okay, I'm getting it in my ult back. Okay, I'm getting my ult back. Defuse ulted.
Scan below you whenever you can.
Yeah, 1 second.
Can we reset? Like, I need 2 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, you're good.
Nice low. I'm popping 2 accelerators to get my ult back. Okay, this window.
Okay.
Window below us. Wait, window. Okay, the beginning window.
Ping it down.
I'm healing.
Lying in the corner.
There might be another team, I don't know. I'm popping accelerant. Let me get my ult, please.
Scan whenever you can.
Yeah, 8 seconds. 8 seconds, 5 seconds. 5 seconds. I'm scanning now.
Pick with me.
I'm stuck. I'm good.
Okay.
Wait, outside. Hit the window on me.
Well, that was intense, and GG keep on pushing forward as well. Apex Warlords will be eliminated in the meantime as GG are taking over this game.
Yeah, Blacklist and International had this building for so long, but then GG arrived, then Aurora arrives, then Vex is there, then cybercats here. Everyone trying to take this building, everyone being aggressive, but the Gaimin Gladiators are still shredding and targeting successfully. Blast finally goes down, though, and now they're just a 2.
Blast just overextended a little bit for that kill. You saw he thought he could get through the white knockdown shield quickly. The third player arrives and swings out to take him down, and now the game looks very, very different for them. Players eliminated in the meantime. Elsewhere, on the outsides of the zone, on the edges of the zone, trying to force their way in now is going to be Forbidden. 12th place overall. We mentioned how one game could change their fortunes. Now maybe this is going to be it. They have complete control of the south side.
Yeah, they have it, but Danish are going to be right below them here, and they're more than happy to take this fight, but Danish get the knock, and that's going to be huge for them, because now they have the advantage. Forbidden have to push on this. They have to try and take advantage of the high ground, otherwise they're just going to get pushed by another squad.
I mean, the catwalk comes down as well. That's going to allow them to buy some time. You've got to force this. You've got to try and make a play, but I don't think it's going to be enough. VexX is last alive now for the team. GG have gone down. Full English have gone down as well, and Forbidden will fall too. And here come the cybercats, but no! All of a sudden, the cybercats are falling over too.
Danish are on a madness. This hold is ridiculous. A last stand maybe for the cybercats to do something here. You can see one remaining player as the caustic, but he's going to be going up against a 2. And the Danish somehow still alive, but it surely ends here as Vex now come in as a final third party just to clean up all the pieces. And there's no way, right? No way that Danish do this again.
Hold up. One player to deal with. Finally, it looks like a couple of players will fall. Atlas will be eliminated in the meantime. Goodness me. Everybody wanted that spot. That's all I can take away from that. Everybody saw that as the opportunity for kills. And finally, we can catch our breath because that was outrageous.
Well, one member of Danish did survive. After all of that madness, a solo has escaped in the top 4. Center zone, as you mentioned, but GoNext Esports are the team that probably have the best position in the game right now. On this eastern side, they do spot out the final player from Danish, which now gets us into our final 3. Vex, Ethernal, and GoNext Esports, but GoNext have the priority position for me.
They certainly do. They got to move last. They do have the cover of those rocks, but Ethernal are feeling devious. They're feeling mischievous. And that devotion is going to allow them to execute on those emotions perfectly should the opportunity rise. They also, Ethernal, they've got full reds as well. Tyler's got himself a turbocharged. Excuse me, one of them had a turbocharged habit if I wasn't mistaken as well. And they got all the loot you could possibly ask for thanks to the graveyard that this building became. Shield Source to play with as well. There's a look at your map overhead. Everybody has their own third of the zone right now.
GoNext have the most space. Vex are kind of forced back a little bit. Ethernal also going to have to all dart out probably the same direction. Also, credit to Tyler, of course, making the move, being on Ethernal now for the first time this week. We've seen Tyler on a few different rosters here or there, still has now the in his name, but playing for Ethernal and finds himself in the top 3 with a chance to send Ethernal into the top 10 in the overalls and maybe a little bit further if they can find a victory here.
Well, now we're looking at the utility, right? You're looking at nades, you're looking at who has ultimates available, and you imagine with the amount of time that has gone past, that most teams should be back up to a position where with some ult excels and a little bit of jiggery pokery, they should have those ultimates available as well. The one issue here for GoNext Esports is the bangholes, because they don't have that cover of the roof. They might be in a position where they take some damage, and you never know who's going to swing off that damage. Ethernal with those red evos may be able to put themselves in a position where they think we can do enough damage and sweep on it quickly to then take our next fight as well.
So VexX are in 7th, GoNext are in 8th, and Ethernal are in 10th. So all three of these teams need a win to try and catch the leaders here. But for me, yes, GoNext are vulnerable to the banghole, but they do have a lot of space, a lot of coverage. My worry for them is if the likes of Ethernal decide to full send, if they overextend even slightly here, if Kai just shows a little bit too much, Ethernal might just jump on and try and isolate.
One thing they do have is some amazing head glitches to play with. You can see that nobody is showing more than a forehead, so to speak, for GoNext. Now you're going to see the utility start to be called in. Zone is closing. The teams will be forced to fight. Scan's going to come in here, which is going to give away the position of Vex here for Ethernal. GoNext trying to make themselves as big as possible. You would say down in the armor advantage, but who is going to be the team who has to engage first? GoNext's coverage starting to disappear a little bit on this zone close.
Oh, Ethernal thinking about pushing out towards GoNext. GoNext need to be hammering them here. They need to be putting some presence down to not allow Ethernal to get past this door, but they've allowed Ethernal out. And now Ethernal, their only play here really is to push onto GoNext.
Take a little bit of damage. Also, one thing to note is that you do have the catwalls as well, so GoNext can survive a little bit longer. Is that catwall going to buy them enough time to force Vex and Ethernal to have to engage first? Nades being exchanged, damage being exchanged, but not in a way which is a significant contributor. But maybe GoNext now do have enough time to capitalize, because Ethernal are being pushed by Vex. They want to try and take on part. Tyler's trying to do what he can, but they will fall. Ethernal will fall, and GoNext will win it. They bought just enough time to force the other two teams into each other. That catwall was vital for them.
I think GoNext benefited from two teams who were hesitant to really do anything. Ethernal, when they get out of that doorway there, they just have to do something with it. They've been given a ticket to win the game, and they don't take it. Instead, they play very passive. They get the catwall up, and they say maybe the other team will come out a little bit quicker, and they will fight instead. It was almost a final circle of everyone hoping that they wouldn't be the first team to fight rather than anyone really taking the initiative, and that is always going to benefit the team that has the most space, and that was GoNext.
Yeah, one good thing for GoNext there is I think they might have been able to force the two teams together as they left those buildings because of the wide angles that they had. And then one team had to burn a catwall. GoNext go, hey, we've got a catwall as well, so we can just add another layer between us and these two teams that are fighting. And again, that time that is bought is why you're seeing Catalyst come back as in such a strong way for some of these teams. The time it buys you in those final zones when teams are so close to each other can be the difference between a third and a first place finish.
Yeah, and I think the difference could be what changes where you are in the leaderboard, right? It could be you not getting those points you need to get to playoffs at the end of all of this. And that's how close everything is in this region and in all regions, to be honest. How many times have we sent a team to playoffs with only a point difference to someone else? It can all matter when it comes down to things at the end. But we can look at the match results and see just how many points all these teams were able to achieve, Mark, because there was good amount of kills that were able to be found.
They certainly were indeed, and one team that got a lot of those is the team who comes out of the lobby with the highest points total, and that is going to be Vex in second place. 10 kills they managed to pick up to give them 19 points overall thanks to their second place finish. GoNext, of course, with the win, not as many kills, but still some decent amount to go alongside the 12 placement points. But I think the top of the leaderboard is going to be pretty kill heavy here because of the carnage that we saw in and around that final zone building. The bottom half I'm expecting to be a little bit more quiet, and Gaimin Gladiators as well, they still put 7 points on the board, but it's Blacklist International who did have that building, I would say, as first priority. They got 4 kills but weren't able to hold off the just constant, I would say, flood of teams who were like, we need to get this building.
Yeah, we dipped away just as Blacklist International got pushed by a few teams, I think. And that's one of the difficulties when you get a circle like that with such little playable space. Everyone kind of makes the move at the same time. As soon as there's commotion that you can use it as a distraction, that's when everyone says, okay, let's go now. But then sadly, there's going to be 4 or 5 teams doing exactly the same thing. Now, the biggest thing I'm taking away from seeing those series standings or those standings from that game is that will play into cybercats and Gaimin Gladiators to take the lead in the series standings, as we can look at the stats for the top 3 here.
Yeah, no surprise to see the amount of damage that came in from Vex. They had the most kills in the lobby, 14 assists, so all shooting together as well, really making sure that they were focused and their comms were good enough to make sure they were focusing on those right targets to convert them into kills themselves. But Ethernal as well, some decent KP to go alongside their placement points as well. And like you mentioned, there's going to be a couple of teams who are going to be happy with how this leaderboard has gone. As we take a look at the overalls, it is all tied up on points. GG have a couple more kills, but more placement points in the hands of cybercats.
Yeah, and it's not out of the realms of possibility for Passion UA and for GoNext and for Trojan, Vex, Atlas, Blacklist International. Everyone's still within touching distance of the top 2, but they would have to see either cybercats or Gaming Gladiators be eliminated early here in match 6. We've got our front runners now, but can any of them just get their nose ahead in the final match?
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very interesting final match. Like you say, anyone inside of that top 8 can still really turn it around depending on the performance of cybercats, Gaming Gladiators, and arguably Passion UA as well, I would say, and GoNext because they're tied with them. But it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that kill feed as we go through this final game, because one of those teams that drops out of the top 4, it can be the difference between finishing inside of the top 4, potentially winning the whole day, or finishing maybe inside of that top 10. So a lot still on the line here as we head into our final game. Before we get there, we're going to jump into a quick break, but don't go anywhere. This last game is going to be a banger. Welcome back to the ALGS, everybody, and this is the perfect setup for a Game 6. Everybody is so close to calling themselves the winners of today. Anyone inside of that top 8, maybe even top 10 with a remarkable performance, still has an opportunity to win this, and you can even extend that down to the teams that are in 11th, down to 20th. The opportunity for them to jump up, get some points on the board is all here as we head into match 6 of Storm Point. Just remind us where the standings are at the moment, who's in the lead, and what the chasing pack are.
The Cybercats and the Gaming Gladiators are our 2 teams who have a real opportunity and the realist opportunity of winning here in match 6 on Storm Point. But you've got Passion UA, GoNext, Trojan, Vex, Atlas, and Blacklist International, all still with a chance of getting into that first position if they were to win this game and maybe see the Cybercats or Gaming Gladiators eliminated a little bit earlier. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Everyone within that top 8 still has a shot, but you'd probably be banking on one of those top teams going out early.
Yeah, it's very true. You would imagine that one will fall of the leaders, so to speak. It's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out. It is set up so beautifully here in EMEA for this final game, and we hope you're enjoying the games at home as well, because trust me, Dan and I are having a great time. I don't usually want to speak to you, Dan, but or speak to you.
You want to speak to me?
Oh, I mean, the truth comes out, right?
Oh, no.
Speak for you. But I'm pretty confident in saying that you're having a great time as well.
An absolute...
Until maybe that last sentence.
Worldie of a time, until I realize one of my best friends hates me, but that's okay. I'll just cry myself to sleep. Yeah, it's going to be a game now where we will be keeping an eye on the top 2, but the fact there is that chance of any of these teams in the top 8 still winning it means it's a difficult position to be in if you're one of the top 2 teams, right? Because yes, you're competing with one of the front runners, but you also have to be aware of the chasing pack and know that you can't just have an average game and toddle along. Because even if the Gaimin Gladiators were to see the cybercats eliminated early here, they still have to have a solid game. Otherwise, it opens up the door for one of these teams to take first away from them.
Well, lock it in, everyone, wherever you are around the world. We're happy that you're watching, of course. And like I mentioned previously, we hope you're enjoying the games. And it does not get any tighter and more exciting than a Game 6 where genuinely you're not quite sure how those final leaderboards are going to look. We're going to start off with GoNext, the winners of game number 5, who have now jumped up into 4th place overall and have a genuine shot at maybe stealing this thing away.
Yeah, that would be it. It would be stealing at this point, wouldn't it? With how the cybercats and the Gaimin Gladiators have performed today, if anyone else was to win, it would feel like it would be a robbery from one of these 2 squads. But cybercats probably been my favorite team of the day, purely for their kind of deference from the meta and changing things a little bit. This is probably the closest to a meta team that we've seen from them now.
I was going to say, you look at the composition, it's like, oh, wait. We're talking about World's Edge, everyone, all right? Okay, just bear with us. We saw some Pathfinder earlier. We saw a little bit of Mad Maggie. We were loving what we were seeing, but we would say maybe Stormpoint forces your hand a little bit more when it comes to the composition, needing that Bangalore just to travel across. And hey, look at that. With a North Zone, we had the most central zone of all time, and now we are going down to the south as well. So a good spread of zones here today in the EMEA region. And good news for the likes of cybercats, who are going to be very, very happy to see that zone pop.
Yeah, and just looking at this zone and any similarities to what we had in previous weeks, you've always got to bank on it potentially going down towards Echo when it's a zone like this, like the Echo and Devastated Coast in the surrounding areas there as it continues to pull to the southeast. There have been times where it pulls up to the choke point to the east of Pylon as well, so maybe a team will bank on that if they're one of the later rotators, but I guess Forbidden will give us a good idea of how they're feeling, because dropping at Pylon, they've got a ring console, they'll be one of the first movers, and you can see an evac tower's just gone down for Forbidden, so they think this is going to be a full southeast pull.
By the way, Later Rotator sounds like a Metallica song, and I'm here for it. Anyway, Forbidden are making Later Rotator. Yeah! Anyway, that's my James Hetfield. Forbidden making that move, like you say. Things are getting weird in game number 6. Aurora also making their move as well. You can see from Devastated Coast, they made a pretty quick transition, I would say, to get not only the ring console, but the survey beacon as well. So they're going to be on a guaranteed blues, almost purples, by the time that they leave. And you can see already some fights breaking out, because in game number 6, prio position, if you get it and you win the fight for it, then you could be the ones who are walking away today in first place.
So Aurora in Devastated Coast, and they're starting to see everyone arrive, so they know full well where this zone is going to be going, even without any console information, because they don't have the legends to do so. They're going to be saying, all right, well, we can see where everyone is coming from. Maybe we just stick with our position now because everyone seems to be coming to us. It may be the zone that finishes just slightly north of Echo in that little cranny by the mountainside, where eventually the circle takes a lot of the mountain. And at the moment, Nessy find themselves in that exact position. But elsewhere, people are trying to make their rotations, and GoNext and players both in the same area.
Yeah, players are chasing them down, and you can see the GoNext maybe thinking about, hey, we've got time to do the Prowlers here. This is going to be a slow rotate for us all the way to the south. Well, players are right behind them, and they are trying to be aggressive and force them off of this position. So players kind of forced the hand here of GoNext. Some shots from distance, but no real damage done. No knocks coming in. You can see that everyone is still pretty healthy. So GoNext decide, and Kashira will decide for his team. Follow me, boys. We're going this way.
Yeah, and GoNext, you know, one of those teams who could certainly win this entire thing. They're 9 points behind first at the moment. So even if you were to see cybercats get into the top 5, if we saw GoNext win with a good amount of kills, they could still topple. So it's not like they have to see cybercats or Gaimin Gladiators eliminated early, but they just would need to be having a bigger game if that were to go their way. But Kashira and GoNext Esports have certainly been a pleasure to watch so far in this split, and Kashira wants to really make his impact once more, right? He didn't make it to split 1, and that was the first time that Kashira has been on the back end of not qualifying for a LAN, and he certainly felt that pain.
Yeah, you can see he had a torrid time when it came to teams last split, and I think this, like you say, it's kind of a redemption arc for him. He's the closest that Europe have ever come to, of course, winning a ALGS LAN. So close in that famous moment against TSM, but that didn't go their way. The last split didn't go their way either. Maybe it's Kashira's time in split 2 here of the ALGS. Elsewhere, you see some shots coming in. Passion UA, they're trying to find their way into a little spot to play as well. It's a evac tower into the unknown, but a playable spot for now, but they've got to try and progress from here.
Well, do they have to progress? Because Passion UA actually...
It seems rotating on that hill. I'm worried for him.
I'd be concerned as well, but it is where that zone can finish. So as long as they can create enough space and make themselves big, it's potentially winnable, but it is an early commitment for sure. As now, speaking of committing, GoNext committing to this fight.
GoNext now forced into their second fight of the day. Vincere going to take a little bit too much damage on the cross here. A little bit of hip fire, but the Havoc is good. It's going to be Kai who exchanges the damage. So we have a 2v2 inside of Command Center here between Blacklist International and GoNext Esports. ArcStar's going to go in here from Kai to try and force that team away. Vincere has found himself in a safe position as well. And it looks like he's going to maybe think about swinging on this res, but no. Unfortunately for him, doesn't make contact, and therefore it looks like a full reset coming in for both teams.
Yeah, a res for res, a chance to get those bats off and reconsider here. Is this fight worth it? Do we think it is isolated? Have we heard another team? Well, there's the scan. It is another team. There are 3 teams here. Blacklist International, GoNext, and players all in the same area.
Yeah, they're just waiting for knocks. You can see at the moment players are just watching, standing still, and they're looking to the top right of their screen, seeing if the kill feed's going to light up. Elsewhere, you can see that Na'Vi, they're having a fight right now. Good spray coming in from Kinda. Matafe gets another knock as well, so it's only 1 left alive here on the other side of this little scrap that's going down, and you would imagine that Na'Vi should be able to hold this position pretty comfortably.
Yeah, Na'Vi hold, Nessy are nearby. Aurora also still holding their devastated coast position. And then you've got all the teams that are to the west. You've got FaZe, you've got cybercats, and you've got Passion UA as the circle is trending south now. So the position that Passion UA found themselves in that little cranny just to the south of the mountain, they will be in one of the more desirable positions when they get to the end game, but are they there just a little bit too early? That's always the biggest question. If they don't have the composition to hold that area, other teams might take it away from them.
That is officially now the official name of that spot.
It's just called the Cranny. All right.
The Cranny, which I want to see pop up in-game within a week, devs. You've got a week, 7 days. I'm generous like that. GG, now they're being forced to move forward thanks to the zone closing behind them. Bangol's going to go down to try and stop their progress a little bit here. Full English is going to be in front of them. Trojan are trying to wrap behind them as well. Although it's not going to be a zone wrap, so they will be pretty safe. They've got the mountain to kind of divide the 2 teams. But GG in second place at the moment. This is a real test for them here. These are the kind of fights where you look at them, and if you come out on top of them and find a spot to play, then these can be the ones you look back on at the end of the day, say, this is the fight that's won us this game.
It's the Full English who have lost Dell. And sadly, I think that means they'll probably lose their entire team if they're not careful, because Gaimin Gladiators are going to continue to push. Nessy are on the other side. Trojan also in the area. As all these teams that were around Devastated Coast are going to have to continue to move down towards Echo HQ, and it is such a horrible zone to try and play if you thought it was going to pull anywhere else, because there is so much of the circle covered by the mountain. So anyone who is north of it is going to have to try and go over the top, as Dell will eventually get finished off. And now Gaimin Gladiators still hold first position, 48 points. They're only 1 point ahead of the Cybercats, though.
Nessy fully eliminated. They were the first team to fall out of the lobby. Another slow, quiet day for our friend Graceful, unfortunately. But he's a man of many talents, as we know, and I'm sure they'll bounce back in the next game day. Na'Vi now trying to wrap from the southern side. Trying to poke up, see if they can get a little bit of damage on some of these teams who are very, very close to them. It actually looks like they bought themselves a little bit of space here. So from the broken armory they were in a few moments ago, they can play this hill for quite some time, Na'Vi, until we do see that more violent pull down towards the south. By the way, Cybercats still in priority position. This is a great zone for them. We mentioned it at the start as far as priority is concerned, and it's looking like it could be a great zone for the end as well.
Yeah, they may get caught out by the other teams that are also in the surrounding areas, but it's Gaimin Gladiators who are kind of finding kills, finding KP at the moment to really push the narrative of we want to be winning this game. We want to be aggressive. We want to try and create a gap against the Cybercats. Only 2 squads have been eliminated, and Gaimin Gladiators have played a part in those eliminations, and it looks like they might play another part in this one.
Yeah, this is going to be Aurora trying to escape at the moment. They do manage to get into a position where maybe they'll be able to put the res, but with that cheeky little angle, threading the needle with those bullets, Aurora will be eliminated, but it's thanks to shots coming in from Na'Vi as well as Lufka here on GG. So they don't get all of the KP, but some is good, and the space is even better for them to play with. Now, what's the next move for them? Where is that zone going to pull? I think a lot of teams are waiting with bated breath, but They're still a pretty good spot at the moment. Danish have got a really interesting wrap as well, by the way, on where this zone is going to be going from the south side, but it's such a difficult cross to make from that low ground.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if this pulls anywhere else than south. If it goes southeast to where Na'Vi are, they'll be delighted, but I'm not sure we'll see a shift like that. So that means that Na'Vi, Trojan, Gaming Gladiators, Forbidden, Apex Warlords, they all have to move. Trojan, they take a lot of damage, but they're okay for now. The bad thing for Trojan is they might think they are the furthest team back, but they have to be careful because GoNext Esports are arriving from behind.
A little bit of damage from the bang ult, but not a huge amount for them. And in 2 seconds' time, we are going to see that zone shift. And the information will be given to teams who don't have a ring console that we're going down towards Echo HQ. Now, you mentioned the cranny, Dan. Well, the cranny is where we end this game. Passion UA, like you said, slam into that position, and that is where the zone is going to be closing. So an opportunity for them maybe to pull off somewhat of an upset today with a little bit of a late game rally, a late series rally, I should say, after their performance here on Storm Point. GoNext, though. They'll be trying to change that narrative themselves a little bit here as we change between our 4th place team and our 5th place team. It is so close, and every KP that goes down, I swear that the overall standings of the team is changing every time as well.
So Passion UA safely in the cranny for now. I'd like to get a look at Passion UA for a second just to double check their composition and how easily they're going to be able to hold that position. But for now, Gaming Gladiators are still in first. They're still being aggressive. They're still looking for KP. Trojan is the next team in their sightlines, but GoNext Esports from behind will catch out the Gaming Gladiators.
Oh, Lufka just got absolutely destroyed, absolutely eliminated. He's just in little pieces. You have to put him back together. He's like a jigsaw puzzle. And Light now has to try and play this one out as a solo. Blacklist International will be eliminated, and you said it, Dan. You have to be careful of the late rotate coming in from GoNext Esports, and they did not take care of their backs.
And it now sends GoNext Esports not only into 3rd position, but now you've got to imagine it's going to be tough for Gaming Gladiators to get any more points on the board apart from just ratting out for placement, which will allow GoNext to catch up, but also hand the initiative over for cybercats to maybe win this entire day. But you've also got to remember Passion UA still within an opportunity in prime position to win this game. 3D Max eliminated, 15 squads now remain.
GoNext still have to fight their way forward, though. You can see they're taking damage. A lot of players still in and around this vicinity. Light is still alive, by the way, for GG, but doesn't have any shields to play with for now, and it looks like he's going to be chased down as well. So a lot of teams are going to have to leave in a few moments' time. Trojan will be safe-ish, but playing up on that hill is so dangerous, trying to kind of work your way towards Echo. However, there's the solo again, and Light is causing all sorts of problems here for Trojan. He gets a knock.
That is big from Light, but is it going to end up going his way? No, it will not. Trojan, they get the kill, and yes, okay, they've lost one. Light went out with a bang, but are Gaming Gladiators now handing over the victory to potentially cybercats or Passion UA? cybercats only 1 point behind them. By the way, Passion UA are playing with a Watson, so the position they hold right now is going to be a comfortable one. And speaking of comfortable, it is everything but for Kashira and GoNext.
Well, GoNext Esports, they managed to take down the final pieces of Trojan, but like you say, Kashira is on his back for now. Will they be able to get the res? That's the question. Also, the zone is going to be closing behind them as well pretty soon. And this building, well, there's not many walls, so it's a pretty horrible place to have to hold. You can see Arcstars flying in towards Slab. Players eliminated in the meantime. Shots coming down from above as well, and GoNext are in shambles.
GoNext, they're on the brink of being eliminated and on the brink to maybe handing over the victory to either cybercats or Passion UA in the overall standings, but there is still an opportunity to rat as Kai gets as quiet as he can and hopes that maybe he can escape. But the Apex Warlords and Forbidden are both surrounding him. Elsewhere, Na'Vi, they're going to be dancing their way out of this position because they're a little bit concerned of all the teams that are above them.
Ethernal leave using that cow wall. cybercats now inside of this building. The game is in their hands, right? They had the god spot, they had the POI that they dropped at, they had the zone come to them. But now the zone has shifted north and there's traffic in front of them to deal with. GoNext Esports will be eliminated, so the final player is taken out. Another move coming in for a potential third party as they try and take this little place, and cybercats have lost one. And most importantly for them is the caustic that goes down as well. So now they don't have the barrels to get down to stop this push coming in. They're sending it. Ethernal eliminated in the meantime. Cybercats need to win this to keep their hopes and dreams alive of winning today, and instead they play for some KP. Cybercats now down to 1. Ranches trying to survive, trying to dive, trying to dodge, trying to do what it can, but Cybercats, they will fall, and that opens the door for everyone else in this lobby.
Well, it opens the door for Passion UA. More importantly, they're the team in 3rd place. They're the team who holds center zone, but another squad who are also in the question are Vex, but they've just lost 1. And did Passion UA notice them? That's the question. Look at all those Watson fences. Passion UA perfectly zoning this area, predicting where this zone is going to go, and now Vex go down. More points for Passion UA as we only have 6 squads left.
And Strafey has a Kraber as well, by the way. The Ukrainian who has been through a lot recently. He's looking to put some good vibes towards his team. It was great to see him, of course, at the Split 1 playoffs. They're looking to make it to the Split 2 as well. And with a game day win, there's no better opportunity. Atlas will fall as well. Strafey flies in. It's another kill for Passion UA. They move up to 2nd.
They're only 1 point behind the Cybercats now. They're into the top 3. They hold prime position. They need to win this fight. If they do win this fight, the likelihood is they will win the entire day here on set.
3 squads remaining, and they move into 1st position. FaZe Clan will be eliminated, so Passion UA make a huge late game rally. Sanyu will fall with 2 bullets left in a Kraber. Strafey might have an opportunity here to do something a little bit special towards the end of this game. He reloads, and now he's got a few more to play with.
It's Na'Vi on the other side, and Na'Vi now with the advantage to win this game, but it's going to be all about Passion UA here.
Passion UA, unfortunately, will fall. Na'Vi will win the game, but the story belongs to Passion. They managed to get the job done. They will win the day, you would imagine, by going into that 1st place. With the kills they managed to put alongside the 2nd place. Then even though Na'Vi might be smiling at the end of play today with that final game win, it's going to be the series smiles that are shared by Passion UA. A phenomenal performance, Dan. And in that final moment, you just felt like they were taking over.
Yeah, Na'Vi, who send themselves into the top 8 in the overall standings, so that does jump them up, and that will be important points when we look at the overall standings to get to playoffs, of course. But the position from Passion UA, it's a difficult place to hold. Nessy actually opted not to hold that spot in the cranny, but they didn't really have the composition to do so. The fact that Passion UA had the Watson meant they could create space, they could zone other teams out, and they could hold it for as long as possible. Sure, it didn't get them the win, but it got them enough points to out-survive the likes of Cybercats and Gaimin Gladiators to take the victory here in the match day.
Yeah, fantastic performance from them. Cybercats will be looking back on that game, though. They'll be kicking themselves knowing that they had such good prio to that zone and just weren't able to convert. One player gets picked off, and before you know it, the whole team will fall inside Echo. So an amazing day, I will say. A really, really competitive lobby today. Every single kill mattered, and we saw that in that final game. Every single kill was what totaled up to Passion UA managing to take it home today, Dan. But I mean, you got to say that their performance to hold that position for so long is one of the best of the day when I think it comes to games. And let's just remember, by the way, their drop spot on this map was, if I'm not mistaken, one of the last picks, if I'm not mistaken, on Storm Point. I might stand corrected on that. We'll double check it quickly, but it was Passion UA. Where were we? Quickly look through. Sorry about this, everyone. We'll get there eventually. Passion UA. I am not reading this properly. Geyser. No, Epicenter. Oh my God, the wrong map.
Wrong map.
Do you know what? We'll get there eventually. Don't worry about it. It's not important. Match results are coming, everybody. We'll get you that information once I can read.
Well, 26 points for Na'Vi, but it wasn't enough to get them in the conversation of winning the entire thing. Also, sorry, Mark, I closed the tab as the game ended, and that's my bad.
It's my fault, because they had to drop Cito, didn't they? They dropped center map. I was thinking about Passion. This is the problem with having Passion and Passion UA in the lobby, everyone.
Yeah,
Very confusing.
Very similar names. 17 points, though, for Passion UA, which was enough to send them into first place. We did say that the leaders were Gaimin Gladiators and Cybercats, but if we saw early eliminations, it would open the door to one of the teams in the top 8, and Gaimin Gladiators did go down pretty early. Cybercats did go down fairly early, and Passion UA take full advantage of it.
They certainly do indeed. And Na'Vi with a really big win, though, to end the day. It was a little bit of a quiet one up until that point, but that will shoot them up those leaderboards. Nessy and Full English, that was kind of the story of today, and you would say pretty similar to Aurora. Again, a little bit of a quiet one for Aurora, maybe struggling to adapt to some of these POIs and the way that the lobbies are playing out, but GG. They'll look back on that moment and say, who was watching our back? As one of them just got absolutely blasted by GoNext.
Yeah, GoNext, they had that strategy of arriving late and they were rewarded for it, but sadly couldn't continue to put themselves into the top conversation. Lauren, you're obviously watching that one from the wings, and it was an interesting game to say the least. What a performance from Passion UA.
And talk about the timing of it all too. I know you guys mentioned it, but right at the end to have such a pop-off performance like that, when we saw all day how close our top literally like 9 was, only separated by one good performance like what we just saw Passion UA have. I mean, it was when it needed to happen, and it was that exclamation point, I think, on the end of their day. So really, really strong performance for them. I'm interested to see what the final overall points are for everybody. Like, just obviously Passion UA looking pretty comfy now, but I kind of want to see where everybody else shook out as well after the last match, because in general, it was a really tight competition all day, Mark.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, it's one of the closest days of action, I think. We saw, I'd love to track how many actual position changes there were in that final game, because it's probably a record when it comes to the ALGS. We saw teams jumping up and down. 1 kill would make the difference between 4th and 5th. All of these things rolled into one of the most exciting end games we've had in quite some time, and one of the most exciting series that we've had in some time. But it is, of course, Passion UA who managed to be the one sort of standing final.
Yeah, EMEA has really been bringing it so far in Split 2. Let's take a look back at our final circles, though, do a little bit of a recap for everything that went down on Storm Point. And to kick things off, obviously, the very first match of the day, one that Mark and myself got to do here. And this was all about Gaimin Gladiators. Mark even said it when we were looking at their position towards the end, because everybody else was just stacked in this building across from them. And when they made their push in, they did it really well. They had some nice off angles. They were able to pick people off as they were moving around. And it was theirs no matter what way you cut it, but also want to shout out Cleve, because we watched Cleve survive with a shred of health for so long to get cybercats that second place, that at the end of the day, this was a strong performance from both teams. But GG, we mentioned heading into Storm Point, better drop, better POI, a team that did well the first time they faced off, they do well again there.
They certainly did indeed. And then as we move through the games as well, this game was will be remembered as everybody really wanted to play this building. I would say it, because everybody fought for around 60 seconds, almost 2 minutes in and around this building towards sort of the latter part of this game. And it's Ethernal who finally managed to get control of it, but getting control of it wasn't enough for them to get the win. It is the catalyst walls that went down that bought GoNext enough time to allow them to engage last. And as we always know, it's the fable of Apex Legends, right? It's the truth when it comes to end games. If it's a 3v3v3, if you fight last, you're usually gonna win.
Really nice finish here as well for yet another different team. That's something we mentioned heading into Storm Point as well. Lots of variety. But Dan, when we head to match 6, obviously we just got to watch it happen, but those final moments were pretty fun.
Yeah, and I was having the conversation with Onset right from when we saw the zone happen, that the little cranny that Passion UA found themselves in could be where the zone was pulling. A lot of teams didn't want to hold that spot because they didn't have the composition to do so, but Passion UA having the Watson allowed them to take the space. Yes, they didn't find the victory. It was actually Na'Vi arriving late from the east, just like Gandalf, were able to win and send themselves into the top 8. But Passion UA get the job done with the amount of points they put on the board. I thought maybe there was going to be something special with the Kraber. You always hope that there's going to be that highlight reel, but Strafey just couldn't quite get that shot to allow his team to try and find anything in this final moment. But it does mean that Passion UA will be the winners here today, and there is that confirmation. They do it by 3 points over the Cybercats, and the Gaimin Gladiators fall in 3rd.
I mean, it's still some very close top leaderboard. Gaimin Gladiators only 1 point behind. Atlas behind them, another squad who was able to get a win. GoNext able to get a win. It was lots of back and forth, and you could see just how KP heavy it was for a lot of these teams as well. Everybody trying to really slay out during the day. I mean, you got VexX up there. Trojan, who actually had some really aggressive games for themselves as well. So overall, I was really impressed with what EMEA brought to the table here today, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, no one was afraid to fight today. That's one thing we certainly can take away. It was a lot of aggression being shown by numerous teams, especially a little bit earlier than what we expect sometimes in EMEA when it comes to trying to force a priority position. And I gotta say, Passion UA, I think that they felt like the team who in some of those end games just had the most composure. They were pretty consistent when they got to those end games and be able to convert into good points and some decent kills to go alongside it as well. And as we now take a look at the regular season standings, we can see that the teams, of course, who have played in an extra series are going to be up at the top here. GG are still on top. They take their first place away from FaZe Clan, so a good day for them. But Passion UA jump up into third now with 50 points.
I mean, not too shabby a performance out of FaZe 2. We talked about it a lot, Dan, just recognizing that they were in some tough positions based off of the POIs that they had here today and still managed